Afternoon, everybody. We are in session. I'm now convening this meeting of the City of Portland Budget Committee. Carla, please call the roll.
Fish.
Here.
Saltzman. Udaly.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. The usual statement, the purpose of council meetings is to do the city's business, including hearing from the community on issues of concern. In order for us to hear from everyone and to give due consideration to matters before the council, we ask everybody please to preserve the order and decorum of these meetings. If you testify, individuals have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. Please state your name for the record. We don't need your address. If you're a lobbyist, please disclose that. If you're here representing an organization, please disclose that as well. Typically, people have 3 minutes to testify. From time to time, we're required to shorten that, just given time constraints. Conduct that disrupts the meeting, for example, shouting or interrupting others' testimony or interrupting during council deliberations, is not allowed. Personal attacks and insults levied against city or council staff, many of whom are required to testify as a condition of their employment, is not tolerated. People who disrupt the meeting face ejection from the meeting. If there is a disruption, I'll issue a warning that if any further disruption occurs, you'll be asked to leave. If you are asked to leave and you don't do so, you are subject to arrest for trespassing. If you like something, thumbs up. If you don't like something, thumbs down is typically enough. So here we are at that time of year. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Andrew Scott, City Budget Director, and I'll just give a quick overview of what we're going to do today, and then we'll dive right into it. For those of you who have been through it before and those who have not. So the first thing we're going to do today is hold a hearing on the possible uses of state revenue sharing. This is something that state law requires us to do as part of our approved budget process. So we will do that and take testimony on those proposed uses of state revenue sharing.
I'm now opening a hearing to discuss possible uses of state revenue sharing. This hearing is being held by the City Council of Portland, Oregon, in compliance with the provisions of the State Revenue Sharing Regulations, ORS 221.770. It's to allow citizens to comment on the possible use of these funds in conjunction with the annual budget process. As proposed for council adoption, the fiscal year 2017-18 budget anticipates receipts totaling $17,485,117 from state revenue sharing. As has been the case in prior years, it's proposed that this revenue be allocated in equal parts to support fire prevention and police patrol services. Is there anyone here today that wishes to be heard on this subject? Come on up. We have two.
Question, is this the testimony that we signed up for outside, or is this a different issue?
There's actually multiple opportunities. This is specific to the revenue sharing portion of the budget. Because of state law, we go through this sort of arcane episode by episode process. So this is specific to the $17+ million that's through state revenue sharing. If you want to testify on that, you're welcome now.
Can I testify on both?
Yes, you're not precluded from testifying on both. That's correct. Just so these guys don't have to, let's bring them one at a time. Come on up, and then we'll bring Star up next. Thanks, Sarah.
For the record, my name is Sarah Hobbs, and this state budget thing kind of blew me. I'm like totally caught off guard that this is a possible funding revenue for fire and police. Is it established how this money is going to be split? What goes to what division, and what specific services will this money be earmarked toward? Or is it just going into a general fund to be spent whatever way fire and rescue and police want to spend it? That's the question I have, because I didn't see this one coming. I came to testify actually on city budget. I'm like, what? So will those questions be answered in the process of the presenters presenting the information?
Good question, Sarah. And first of all, again, I apologize for sort of the arcane nature of the hearing, but we have to follow state law very, very closely.
I'm not angry, Mayor,
Right.
at the fact you got to follow the law.
So with regard to the specific expenditures, the proposed budget, which is available online, has line by item proposed expenditures in both the police and the fire bureau budget. So
Whoever
that-
is doing closed caption, could they please post that website listing so people can see it as well,
Very
please?
good, excellent. And that's on the city budget website, and I appreciate it. And just for the record, because it's a new program, which is pretty cool, you can actually, if you hold your cursor over the line item, it'll open a page with a full narrative on each line
Is
item.
that under the open data website?
That's correct.
All right,
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes, Star Stoffer. As far as whatever, I have not looked at the proposed budget online for the Portland Police and what they're requesting. If this is still open to debate as far as the allocation of these funds, I would like to propose that some of the funds that are going to the Portland Police be reallocated towards the families of the victims of police shootings to help get them back on their feet and pay, to reimburse them for funeral services, wage losses, time lost, and not only that, counseling for them and their families. I think that would be the sensitive and sensible thing to do. It would create an opportunity to reach out to that community and perhaps start bridging that gap of mistrust and anger towards the city of Portland right now. Not only that, I'm not really comfortable giving the Portland Police any more money, considering they act like impetuous children who don't have to follow the law. So that's my proposal. I'm gonna keep it short to that. Please consider allocating some of this money without dragging these families through court to these families who have lost children and loved ones to police violence here in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi, Ted. My name is Antigonus Jarrett, and I've given testimony to you before. I have witnessed extreme police violence using military-style equipment, such as tear gas canisters and ultrasonic disturbance that, makes your stomach hurt. And I worry when I see police budgets go up that the reason that we're increasing the budget is that we're going to be purchasing more military-style equipment. And as a pastor, I didn't happen to come dressed up today, but as a pastor, I feel that I have to speak out on behalf of all of the people that I see who are injured by these weapons. And I have to wonder why we have to use them and why we have to allocate money for them. Because in my mind, that money could be spent in much better ways, and we don't need to be purchasing military-style equipment for a city.
Thank you.
And specifically a sanctuary city. That's a good point. A sanctuary city where people are supposed to feel safe under our care. People are supposed to feel safe under my care, and I don't know how I'm supposed to ensure that safety when I'm afraid of the police and I'm afraid that they're going to be spending more money on buying more weapons.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Any other public testimony on this item? Any further comments from my colleagues on this particular item? I'm now closing this hearing to discuss possible uses of state revenue sharing.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So at this point, we're going to move into the actual approved budget phase of today's proceedings. And let me just walk through sort of the run of show, because there are multiple steps that we need to follow in terms of complying with state law. So last week, we had a hearing, a work session to talk about the approved budget changes. The mayor released his proposed budget earlier in the month. We talked about then some potential changes council wanted to see, and then the mayor filed the approved budget, which is what you have before you, that incorporated some of those changes. And so the first thing we're going to need to do is put that, because you're acting as the budget committee, put those approved budget changes as filed in the change memo onto the table. So there needs to be a motion and a second.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fish, a second from Commissioner Fritz. Any further discussion on the motion?
Great. And actually, we don't need to vote on that. We just needed to make sure it was put on the table. At this point, and I'm happy to go through any of the details. We did walk through those at the work session, so I wasn't going to go into a lot of detail on what those changes were. But at this point, we can entertain any additional amendments that the mayor or council may have. Each amendment that is brought forward today needs to have a motion and a second. and then we will take individual votes on each amendment as we go through.
Andrew, we have a cheat sheet that's been handed out with the updated list of amendments. Is it your recommendation we just take them in sequence?
I think that is an easy way to do it, correct?
Although I have an amendment I'd like to offer that is not on any list.
That's right, and I think there may be some additional amendments as well. So maybe starting with the.
Excuse me, I just want to clarify. I believe the procedure is they moved and seconded, but we don't vote until after we've heard public testimony.
Actually, so what we do is each one is approved and seconded, and we can also put them all on the table for discussion, but each one gets an individual vote
Right.
first, before public testimony.
Why?
At that point, because what the public is here to testify on is the approved budget prior to approval, and so these amendments need to be added to what is already essentially filed. And then at that point, after we have approved after council has approved the budget adjustments in attachments B, C, and D as amended, we open it up for public testimony on the approved budget in totality.
But there hasn't been an opportunity for the public to testify on any of the amendments yet, so why would we vote on them before we've heard public testimony?
This is the procedure that we followed by state law, and so, there is public testimony on those amendments. After public testimony, council can make additional changes or amendments to the budget. This is a procedural issue because what we need to do, because you're acting as the budget committee and not as city council right now, and we need to get the approved budget changes officially on the table so that the public can see what those are and then testify
Commissioner
on
Fritz,
them.
you have, in past budget years, I believe, raised this same question appropriately. But I also, my recollection is after the testimony, we've also come back and made the adjustments. And it's been explained to us that this is the formal mechanism of placing it before the public.
So then why would we not just vote yes on all of them and then vote on them all again after testimony?
So do we have to
Because
complete the...
because there may be some amendments that don't have the support of council to put into the revised budget.
So if I understand, Director Scott, you're saying we take the motion and the second, and we vote on them prior to public discussion?
Prior to hearing from the public, right, there's council discussion on these to determine
And
whether
then the
there's
process subsequent to deliberations, council discussion, or testimony would be to go back and revise or withdraw? We'd have to take a vote again to withdraw something, correct?
Correct. Right now,
Okay.
acting as the budget committee, you are making decisions. A majority of the budget committee makes decisions about what to include in the approved budget. So that's the process we're going through right now, as Commissioner Fish laid out. Is there support from at least 3 members of the budget committee to even put it on the table for the public to essentially comment on?
Very good. Does that answer your question, Commissioner? I agree with you. It's unorthodox compared to the way we typically do business, but...
Well, I just want to, so I need to know, do I need to be on the winning side of the vote which is on the table in order to move to reconsider so that we can then vote against it, or
No.
vice versa?
No.
In your normal parliamentary procedure, you have to be on the winning side in order to be able to vote, to move to reconsider any particular item. So it would seem like if we even might want to reconsider it later, we should vote yes, even though we actually want no.
Can I jump in here for a second, Andrew?
Commissioner Fish.
This is not a normal parliamentary procedure, because as Andrew explained, we are discharging a bill from the Budget Committee to the full council for testimony. And my understanding, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have the freedom to amend it any way we choose after the public testimony.
That is
So
that's
even
correct.
if-
Great
even if you-
conversation. What's legal counsel's opinion?
And I will let you know in just a minute. I
Okay, keep
apologize.
stalling.
So I
Go.
just want to know, maybe by councillor's assent, that if I want to change a vote after hearing public testimony, I would be allowed to move to do so, even if I didn't happen to support it in the first place, or vice versa.
Yes, after public testimony, any member of the budget committee could bring forward another amendment, either to add an additional item or remove something that had previously been put in.
Thank you.
Any objection? Great, then we don't. If you find something that prohibits that, let me know, but in the meanwhile, we'll make that the operational agreement up here.
Thank you, I will do so.
So with that then, colleagues, what I'd recommend, since we do have the cheat sheet, and Commissioner Saltzman and I at least have additional amendments that we'll need to bring forward, I'll go through the cheat sheet first, if you don't mind, and we can just take the votes up or down on each of these in order. Does that work with people?
Yeah, so the person who's moving them would explain to the public what they are.
Exactly. Great. So I will start since mine happened to be first. This is the Build Portland Amendment. In conversations with a number of folks, I've come back with a amendment to the language of the footnote. That was attachment D, which I'm proposing that we change. And the main changes here are highlighting for council the general fund forecast for future debt service costs as soon as the next debt issuance falls within that 5-year rolling forecast window. It requires that there be a discussion with the council on the costs and benefits of proceeding with the Build Portland program. It also includes a express intent to hold a work session during the summer of 2017 to discuss the Build Portland program. And in the fall of 2017, I will, as mayor, present to the council a binding resolution to formalize the city's commitment to Build Portland. That is it. Legal counsel, do I need to read the whole thing into the record, or is it sufficient to have it on this piece of paper?
I'm sorry, I was focused on the other thing. So
I'll read
you
it.
have amendment.
As
you're
part of the
wondering-
Build Portland initiative started in fiscal year 2017-18 budget, the plan includes a schedule of periodic debt issuances for infrastructure repair, rehabilitation, and replacement, period. Council directs the city budget office to highlight for council the general fund forecast, the future debt service costs as soon as the next proposed debt issuance falls within the 5-year forecast timeframe, and discuss with council the costs and benefits of proceeding with the program. Council expresses its intent to hold a work session during the summer of 2017 to discuss Build Portland. In the fall of 2017, the mayor will present to council a binding resolution to formalize the city's commitment to Build Portland.
Mayor, I'm going to second this.
Okay, Commissioner Fritz just beat you out there. It has been moved, it has been seconded. Is there further discussion or questions on this particular amendment? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Fish,
Aye.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Udaly,
Aye.
Fritz.
So this outlines the mayor's plan for using money that will come back into the tax rolls after the urban renewal districts are finished, and using that money to build infrastructure. But the amendment says that we're going to have a further public discussion about that before we move forward with it. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the amendment is the amendment is actually approved. Colleagues, there's two other quick ones I'd like to put on the table, and since I have the mic, I might as well go it. First of all, taxes returned from urban renewal. This is striking the entirety of section under attachment D, listed as taxes returned from urban renewal. Given that we have just approved this amendment, this simply swaps out the language that was there previously. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion on this highly scintillating amendment? Seeing none, call the roll.
Fish.
Mayor, just so, again, the public is clear on this, we are affirming a policy recommendation that the mayor has made to, in effect, use some of the returning urban renewal money to fund an ambitious plan to get a handle on our backlog of infrastructure maintenance. And the mayor is sharpening the two pieces that appear in this budget, and is pledging to do a process this summer which will result in a resolution which will lay out the long-term vision. And I strongly support that. Aye.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Udaly,
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the amendment's adopted. And last but not least, this is a motion to amend attachment D, specifically the budget note, achieve full cost recovery for police secondary employment. The council directs the Portland Police Bureau to implement a rate model that achieves full cost recovery for the secondary employment hours worked by police officers that provide private benefit to a specific business, property, or individual. The cost recovery model shall include both direct and indirect costs, and full cost recovery rates shall be completely phased in by fiscal year 2021. I think it is self-explanatory, but the bottom line is I don't believe we should be in the business of subsidizing the use of our police force for private sector, organizational, or individual needs.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Fritz. Is there any further discussion before we call the roll? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
So, Mayor, as in your role as Police Commissioner, I'd like to know why this information was not given to me on previous occasions when we've approved the secondary employment policy, where I was specifically told that it did have full cost recovery. So I'd like to know from the Bureau what the difference is
Yeah, and
sooner than this
that is a
date.
fair question, and I do not have the answer for that. And it may be that there is currently full cost recovery, but I want to dot that I and cross that T and make it the policy of the city council that there will be full cost recovery and that we will hold the leadership of the Bureau accountable for achieving that cost recovery.
That's a great explanation, because that has been my request on the previous times that I've approved it. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the amendment is adopted. Next up, Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two amendments. The first would reverse the 5% cut that appears in the mayor's filed budget for Open Signal, which provides community digital media and literacy services. And this would be paid for out of the general fund contingency.
Commissioner Fish moves, Commissioner Udaley seconds very, very quickly. Any further?
And just for our audience, Open Signal, formerly Portland Community Media, has a building on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. They are also the wonderful people that film these meetings and other public meetings and provide services through cable television.
I have found that there is no camera angle that makes me look good, so I won't hold it against them. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye?
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
So this money is coming out of the reduction to the general fund contingency. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the amendment's adopted.
Mayor, I have a second amendment. I have a amendment number 2, which would amend attachment D, specifically the budget note that refers to the Joint Office of Homeless Services funding conversation, and it would read as follows. Title, Joint Office of Homeless Services Funding Conversation. Council directs the City Budget Office to coordinate a work session to discuss the city's role in supporting the efforts of the Joint Office of Homeless Services, which will include a discussion of current and future funding levels, insert, including funding sustainability.
Second. So
tie.
Commissioner Fish moves,
tie.
I'll give it to Commissioner Udaley as a second with my
you.
enthusiastic harmony. Any further discussion before we call the roll? Seeing none, call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the amendment is adopted. Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you, Mayor. My first one is relatively simple. It's to amend the budget notes regarding reporting from Portland Parks and Recreation to be more realistic into the time it would take to hire a consultant to do an objective outside evaluation of the funding for Portland Parks and Recreation over the long term. So the long-term financial plan budget note would now say, Council directs Portland Parks and Recreation to develop a long-term financial plan which specifically outlines options to address system development, charge-funded system expansion, and long-term major maintenance needs. This plan should outline alternative funding options and possible service trade-offs if new sources for operations and major maintenance needs are not available. A status report shall be submitted to Council along with the Bureau's financial year 2018 to 19 requested budget. The long-term financial plan should be submitted to Council by December of 2018.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fritz, a second from Commissioner Udaley. Any further conversation or questions prior to the calling of the roll?
Fish.
Seeing none, please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Thank you. Of course, if we can get it done faster, we will. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the amendment is adopted.
Assuming that I might get the Bureau back, I should have said that. Thank you. My amendment number 2 is much more complicated, so bear with me, please. The citizens and voters of Portland passed Measure 26-180 last year, which raised approximately $3 million a year from a tax on recreational marijuana sales at 3%. And so when I was taking this measure to the voters, Commissioner Saltzman, Commissioner Fish voted to send it to the voters, we had a long discussion about what kinds of new things this money could fund to increase safety and to provide opportunities for small businesses and individuals impacted by cannabis prohibition. So I was very disturbed, and there was going to be a council vote, which is one of the reasons I'm putting this one on the table, because we do need to vote on the allocation of that $3 million of ongoing money from the marijuana tax. The proposed budget, or what's on the table, would allocate $2,300,000 plus funds to fund existing programs within the Police Bureau, leaving only $500,000 to be used for that other critical small business support and expungement of records, and only $125,000 to go to Vision Zero to reduce traffic fatalities. The allocation in the proposed budget is $1.8 million for the service coordination team in the Police Bureau and $500,000 for the traffic division. But it doesn't increase any services, it merely uses marijuana money to pay for these services. And so my request is, thinking back to those three purposes that we put in both in the ballot measure and in the city code, which is largely public safety, traffic safety and support for small businesses, I would like to make it a little bit more fair than allocating $2.3 million to the police, $625,000 to Vision Zero, and only $500,000 to the third category. So here is my amendment. And what I'm suggesting is that since Vision Zero is very dear to three of us, with Commissioner Fish's mother, Commissioner Udaley's father, and my husband having died in traffic crashes, that the urgency of Vision Zero is now. And every day it seems we hear about more fatalities on the streets of Portland, which could be prevented with better education, better traffic dividers, and better education to people about what they can do to be safe. And so the amendment says, reduce the current ongoing recreational marijuana tax fund allocation for the service coordination team by $1,464,858 and reallocate that to fund Vision Zero safety traffic work on an ongoing basis. Reduce the one-time money in general fund support for Vision Zero by that same amount and reallocate that to the Portland Police Bureau to backfill the reduction in funding this service coordination team on a one-time basis so that we can reevaluate it next year.
Do you have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fritz, a second from Commissioner Saltzman.
So, discussion, Mayor?
Yes, and I wanted to ask a question of my colleagues. It's my understanding from what we heard from Director Scott and legal counsel that we can change these things. The reason I'm asking is there are some representatives of the Police Bureau representing the service coordination team who asked if they could testify on behalf of that program. We could either do it now or we could hold off and wait till all the amendments are on the table.
I think it
Let's
would
go
be
with regular order, Mayor.
Very
Yeah.
good. Commissioner Fish, did you have another
So
comment?
here's my question. I
Yeah.
just, I want to make sure I understand all the moving pieces. So under this amendment, the ongoing money that is currently proposed to go to service coordination team would go to Vision Zero. And what resources would be used to backfill service coordination team for the next fiscal year?
the one-time money which is currently allocated to Vision Zero.
I
So
see.
all that I'm proposing is just to switch it.
And so, under this amendment, we would have, in the next fiscal year, a discussion about whether to fund service coordination team with one-time money or to find ongoing money to make it sustainable.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
And I just remind the council, I've been one of the council's most solid supporters of the service coordination team. It just seems to me that at this time, Vision Zero is the more urgent
Can I
funding
ask
need.
the sponsor one other question? And I appreciate what you said earlier about your intent when you went to the voters on the marijuana tax. We could have a longer discussion about who said what at council, and I think there were a number of themes that were expressed. But does this amendment, for purposes of this budget, satisfy your concerns about how the marijuana money is distributed for purposes of this budget?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, just to clarify, since you are sitting as the Budget Committee, any member of the Budget Committee can ask city staff to come up and speak to a particular
And
issue.
they will have that opportunity. I just wanted to know from my colleagues whether they wanted to do it now or wait until afterwards.
Mayor, I would say that we would bring them up first when we go to testimony, since they are on duty.
Very good. And I will just note that I was not aware of this at the time, but I am now made aware that the service coordination team was actually one of the parts of the agreement that we agreed to with the Department of Justice under the reforms of the Police Bureau. So the question of whether it will be funded long-term is, I think, intimately linked to the question of maintaining the integrity of the agreement between the city and the Department of Justice. And I want to be very clear and on the record, regardless of what happens in Washington, D.C., we are going to continue to be supportive of those agreements.
Mayor, can I just make one observation?
Commissioner Fish, yes, please.
We have, in past years, sometimes because of budget shortfalls, funded council priorities, long-term priorities with one-time money, with the understanding that when ongoing money was available, we'd make the conversion. My vote today, in no way, I'm a huge supporter of SCT, whether it's in the Justice Department settlement or not. And Commissioner Fritz and I and Commissioner Saltzman have been on this council long enough to remember when this actually was controversial and it was criticized as an approach. It now has demonstrated its worthiness. In deciding the question about whether we use one-time or ongoing money, in no way in my vote will that be a reflection on whether I want to see this as a long-term commitment of the council.
Very good. Any further comment? Commissioner Daly?
I'd just like to add that I hope in future years we can have a more in-depth conversation about how the marijuana tax will be utilized. And I will have some questions about SCT when those representatives come up. I'm certainly an enthusiastic supporter of diversion. I just appreciate the intent of this amendment.
Call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Thank you, colleagues. Aye.
Wheeler.
I want to thank Commissioner Fritz for going around and around on this with me and coming up with what I think is a very good pragmatic solution, with the caveat I mentioned earlier. So I want to thank you in particular for your hard work on this amendment. Aye, the amendment is adopted. Next item.
Thank you, colleagues. And this is a related one, which involves myself and Commissioner Daly partnering to discuss that remaining $500,000 of ongoing money. And this is a motion to add Attachment D to add the following budget note. The financial year 2017-18 budget includes $500,000 in recreational marijuana tax revenue to be allocated via a participatory budgeting process to be managed by the City Budget Office with guidance from Commissioners Udaley and Fritz. The project managers will implement the process using the participatory budget project's guidelines and shall report to Council by November 30th of 2017 on their progress. Funding allocated through this process will go towards the following, which is the third purpose that I mentioned in my last discussion. Support for neighborhood small businesses, especially women-owned and minority-owned businesses, including but not limited to business incubator programs, management training, and job training opportunities, and providing economic opportunity and education to communities disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition.
I'll second this. I have a question of the sponsor.
Commissioner Fritz moves, Commissioner Fish seconds. Commissioner Fish.
So the way I read this is we're carving out the $500,000 for the next budget year. There'll be a participatory budgeting process, something that I know both the mayor and Commissioner Fritz have wanted to pursue and fine-tune. The budget office will manage it, which means that all members of the council can kibitz, but it will receive guidance from two commissioners who will be guiding the process. And then at such time as there are recommendations, they will come back to the council for a vote. Is that correct?
Correct.
And just speaking for myself, I would hope that when you come back to the council, there's a menu of options that can be reviewed and not just an option, but that's for your consideration since you are guiding the process.
Commissioner, I would expect it to be rather like the special appropriations process that we've had before, only using community members as well as City Council staff members.
So, for example, for those who haven't gone through that process, sometimes we have more asks than dollars, and we have to weigh tough choices. But I would welcome having more asks than are available dollars so the council can deliberate.
That's a good point. The other thing I'll note is that this is ongoing money, and one of the things I'd like to see is some things need funding sooner rather than later. Some things may be needed more later, so that we would, as Commissioner Udaly asked, have a discussion about the marijuana tax each budget cycle, because we are bound by the bond measure language, not the bond measure, the tax measure language, to have a specific vote on the uses of that tax.
Okay, very good. Any further questions or discussion? Please call the roll, Carla.
Fish.
Aye?
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
I'm really excited about this participatory budget process. I think it hopefully will be the first of many. Aye.
Fritz.
Well, thanks to Teresa Marchetti and her team in the cannabis program management in the Office of Neighbourhood Involvement, who have been amazing setting this up. Thank you to the Cannabis Policy Oversight Team, who will doubtless be engaged in this process. And thank you in particular to State Senator Lou Frederick and Jesse Horton, the president of the Minority Cannabis Business Association, who put in arguments in favour into our ballot measure, specifically calling out these necessary purposes. Aye.
Wheeler.
I love this amendment, and in particular, I've been looking for a good opportunity for us to engage in participatory budgeting. And I think with Commissioner Fritz and Udaly at the helm of this process, it will be just what Commissioner Udaly hinted at, the first of many opportunities to go directly to the public and hear from communities that are directly impacted by budgetary and policy decisions we make, and having them not only sitting at the table, but actually making the decisions on how resources are allocated. I vote aye. The amendment's adopted.
Thank you. Plowing on, the next motion is to add a budget note, which will say, Council directs the City Budget Office to evaluate funding levels for the Commissioner's Office's budget relative to the Mayor's Office and make recommendations to adjust funding levels as appropriate. This may include, but is not limited to, establishing the appropriate ratio of Commissioner's Office budgets to the Mayor's Office budget. This evaluation should be complete and submitted to Council for consideration by November 30th of 2017 in preparation for the financial year 2018-19 budget.
Second?
Commissioner Fritz moves. Commissioner Fish seconds. Questions or comments?
Well, yeah,
Commissioner
I mean,
Saltzman?
What is the intent behind this, or the rationale behind it?
Well, I think the size of the Mayor's Office in particular has been something that has gone up and down in the three mayors that I've served under. Mayor Hales had half as many staff as Mayor Adams, and I think found that very difficult to manage. So Mayor Wheeler is, in my opinion, rightly adding 3 commissioners' assistant positions in his office. And there was some suggestion, well, some of us are really working and scrambling very hard to to do all the work that we're assigned, and perhaps there should be a ratio to trigger that, both as a way to make future mayors who set the proposed budget think about how much staff they actually need in relation to the commissioners' offices, and to
But each one of us, as an independently elected official, has the right to submit a budget that we believe we can defend.
Well, under Mayor Hales, as you remember, all of the commissioners' offices' salary funding was set similarly, and we went away from the practice of previous administrations of allowing commissioners' offices to pull funding for staff members in their office from their bureaus, which really amplified the difference between having big bureaus assigned or small bureaus assigned, because commissioners in charge of big bureaus could have their staff people amplified by the big bureaus, where the small bureau directors could not.
May I offer a comment?
Thank you.
Commissioner Fish?
The reason I'm going to support this amendment is it does not compel us to make any changes in our budget or in how we allocate resources. It simply asks for an assessment and some recommendations. And in conversations I've had with the Budget Office, I'm persuaded that we ought to at least have this conversation about whether there's a ratio between what the mayor's office has in terms of budget and commissioners' offices. I will be free to reject whatever recommendations come out of that process, but I actually think that is an appropriate inquiry, and I look forward to a conversation, and we may decide to take no further action. I see no harm in having that assessment.
I'll throw my comments into the pile as well. This is an evaluation, and I never think that an evaluation is a harmful thing. So I support the amendment as drafted. I will say that different mayors have had different managerial styles and have chosen, as Commissioner Fritz said, to staff at different levels. Mayor Adams had, I believe, over 20 people actually working in his office. Mayor Hales made a commitment to significantly reduce that, which he did. And it was my observation and the observation of many that, particularly since he took the bureaus back at the front, he was way behind the ball, and his administration was overwhelmed with the number of issues that they had to deal with. We have more on staff now, but we have a huge amount of work that we need to get done, and it's my observation that as the presiding officer, if we get backlogged, that actually slows down the commissioner's offices as well in terms of important policy implementation. So I certainly welcome the evaluation. I think it's a good idea,
Mayor, one other comment, if I could?
Yeah, please.
During my tenure on this board, when we were in the teeth of a recession, this council, for example, opted not to take a COLA. From time to time, members of this council have underspent and returned savings to the Treasury. So again, my support of this does not in any way indicate that I think we should limit the right of each council office to make its own decisions about how much it spends on what, whether to return money, whether to accept a COLA. That is in the discretion of each office. This is an evaluation, though, as to whether there should be some connection between the level of staffing and funding at the mayor's office and commissioner's offices. I actually think that's a long overdue discussion.
Very good. Any further comments or conversation? Carla, please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye?
Saltzman.
Well, I think each commissioner and the mayor are free to design their own budget, and if they can defend it with their colleagues and the voters and the public, then more power to them. But I think this is really the first step in sort of an automatic process where commissioners' budgets and mayor's budgets are going to grow staff without any other reason than the ratio looks good or the ratio looks fine. I think these decisions should be made by the council as a budget body, should scrutinize our office budgets, as should the budget office, as should the public, and we should be free to staff according to what we think really meets the needs of our offices. I really think this is trying to set up an automatic formula that's just going to escalate budget our offices, and I don't think it's necessary. No.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
I want to throw my caution here as well. And first of all, I support the amendment and I support the evaluation. But Commissioner Saltzman just hinted at a potential problem, which is what happens if you have a mayor who really doesn't know how to manage an operation and in fact eviscerates their budget to the point where they don't have the ability to manage effectively. That slows them down, it slows you down, it slows the whole city. So I would actually put on the record, now I oppose any hard and fast formulaic approach to budgeting. That is always a bad idea, in my opinion, but I like the idea of the evaluation. I think we should have it. It should be an open and transparent conversation. If for no other reason than that I received many questions from many different quarters about our budget vis-a-vis the commissioner's office budgets. And so I think these are legitimate questions to evaluate. I vote aye. The amendment's adopted.
Thank you. Moving on, I've just got a few left. This next amendment, number 5, is to amend attachment D, specifically the budget note on funding youth bus pass. And I know we have people who are going to want to testify on this. So the budget note would now say, the city is providing $967,000 for the youth bus pass, again, in financial year 2017 to 18, even though providing transportation to high school students is not a core city function. Council declares its belief that the program should only be available to high school students who qualify for free or reduced price lunch within the City of Portland, including those who attend Parkrose and David Douglas High Schools. Council directs that the $967,000 be allocated to the 3 districts based on the number of students qualifying for free or reduced price lunch, and the city asks the school boards of each district to utilize the funds in a manner that provides transit access to vulnerable students. Furthermore, Council directs the Portland Bureau of Transportation to complete an independent, objective analysis of TriMet's actual costs associated with the program, either through increased expenses or foregone revenue.
Is there a second?
I'll second for the purpose of discussion.
Commissioner Fritz moves, Commissioner Udaley seconds for the purpose of discussion. Any further questions or conversation?
So,
Commissioner Udaley?
yes,
Then Commissioner Fish?
I think this is going to be the one item that we're not in total agreement on. I want to acknowledge the hard work that Opal's youth advocates put into this effort, Youth Environmental Justice Alliance and the Multnomah Youth Commission. They really brought their A game to our community budget sessions. And I would ask that instead of allocating the money as described, holding it and holding a work session that includes those voices, because I strongly feel that the youth should have a voice in this, that they may have some important input that we haven't considered. And one of my concerns about this allocation is that I've heard that these smaller districts don't necessarily have matching funds to put into Youth Pass. Right now, we do a third, right, with the school district, the city, and TriMet giving a discount. And so they may not be able to leverage those dollars the same way as PPS can. And we just might be able to come up with a better solution.
I would actually suggest take that as a friendly amendment, as if the amount is the same, 967,000, and there be a work session with the school boards and the youth to decide how to divide that up. That's a different conversation than we've been asked, which is pay for it in Portland as public schools as well as in David Douglas and Park Rose.
Can I ask a question? Because that would be my inclination as well here. But Andrew, historically, when we've budgeted for this, when did the school district start to draw down the money in the fiscal year?
I don't know the exact answer in terms of when they get the funding. I believe the bus passes are available starting in September.
So they're not used for any summer-related academic programs?
I don't believe so.
But to be clear, signups, I believe, start July 1st.
That may be.
So conceivably, we could agree to set the money aside and try to have a more robust policy discussion before we allocate it and still meet the September deadline?
I think so. We would need to check with the districts. There certainly is a time constraint there in terms of moving quickly. Whether there's time to do so, sooner rather than later, that may be available.
Well, with the caveat that we may not be able to have the process we want, given the timing, the friendly amendment or the amendment to the amendment has my support, because I think there are a lot of, I think the devil's in the details, and I have some real questions about how this would actually work. I also have a question about whether we're being too restrictive in saying free or reduced price lunch. There are working class kids whose parents fall just over that boundary, who I think may ought to be considered. I think that is a conversation we ought to have outside of the budget process. So I would urge us, Mayor, to accept the amendment to the amendment, segregate the money, set the money aside, and then figure out what our timeline is for a policy discussion.
So may I just try again with the amended amendment?
Yeah, please.
So the city is providing $967,000 for the youth bus pass, again, in financial year 17-18, even though providing transportation to high school students is not a core city function. Council declares its belief that the program should only be available to high school students who qualify for free or reduced lunch within the city of Portland. Actually, we could delete that as well. Yeah. Council allocates it to districts within the city of Portland, including those attending Park Rose and David Douglas. Council directs that the $967,000 be allocated to the 3 districts in a manner that provides transit access to vulnerable students. And then finishing off with the PBOT analysis. Does that meet your intent, or do I have to put in something about a work session or something?
Well,
I'd like a work session.
let me just see if I can make it even simpler.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I think for purposes of today, all we have to do is say that we're going to spend $967,000 on youth bus pass, and simply, but also say that we will determine how that money is allocated based on a a work session and further council action. I'm not comfortable putting any sideboards on this because I want to have that conversation first.
That's fine.
Sounds good.
Andrew, how would you say that
So,
in budgetese?
yeah, if we start with the first sentence again, so the city is providing $967,000 for the youth bus pass again in fiscal year 2017-18, even though providing transportation to high school students is not a core city function. Council expresses its intent to hold a work session to discuss the allocation of this funding.
And
Period.
to be followed by some council action which appropriates the money. So the work session would be for the purpose of reviewing our options, but then we would have to affirmatively come forward with the policy guidance to how the money is spent. Right?
Yes, there would need to be a further action, yeah.
Commissioner Fritz, is that satisfactory?
Yes, I do want to include specifically saying Portland Public Schools 1J, Park Rose and David Douglas High Schools. Because I can no longer vote for the entire amount of money to go to just Portland Public Schools.
So we're setting aside $967,000 to fund transportation services to high school students in those 3 school districts.
Yeah, that's good.
And we're expressing, but we will not, the allocation will be subject to a work session and further council action. All right,
Agreed.
does that state your amendment,
Brilliant.
colleague? Andrew?
Second.
Yes, so if you're ready to read back the language, or we can move on to the next amendment and come back. Yeah, I think we'll. Can we do that? Just put this on hold for a
Sure, we'll-
moment?
we'll put that on.
I would say, let's make it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
We're-
On hold, okay, Commissioner
we're
Fritz?
Setting the
Thank
money
you.
aside and then making the policy choices later.
And for anybody who thinks that things are already cooked up before we get out here in public, I think you've just seen that that is not the case. And thank you, Commissioner Daly. That's a good strengthening of the programme. Motion 6 is to amend attachment D to add the following budget note on open and accountable elections programme. The city's public matching campaign finance programme is to be implemented in time for the 2020 election. Council directs the City Budget Office to conduct an analysis of the staffing and operational needs of the programme and report back to Council with recommended funding levels for financial year 17-18 and beyond. City Budget Office is also directed to make a recommendation as to the appropriate location of this function, in other words, of the programme.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fritz, a second from Commissioner Daly. Any further comments?
Well, just to be clear, in the amended that's on the table, there is $250,000 to get this programme started.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye?
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The amendment's adopted. Are you ready? Should we go on to why are we going to 7?
Okay, my last one. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Motion to amend attachment D to add the following budget note. The Office for Community Technology, OCT, is currently a division of the Bureau of Revenue and Financial Services. Council directs the City Budget Office to engage an external consultant that will evaluate options and make recommendations to Council on the optimal location and structure for the Office for Community Technology within the city's organizational framework.
Second?
We have a motion from Commissioner Fritz, a second from Commissioner Fish. Any further discussion on this item?
Well, for the two of you who weren't here last term, this was something that moved because of the budget when the former leader of the director of the Office for Community Technology retired, partly for savings. This program was put into the Revenue Office, but there was never a external objective evaluation of what's the best location and structure for it.
Okay.
Very good. Is there a cost component to this that has to be accounted for?
Yes, to the extent we move forward with an external consultant, I think there would be a cost. And one of the things, we would need to work through that, and hopefully we'd be able to do that before the adopted budget in 3
Very
weeks
good.
to figure out.
So
how
you'll
much
come
it
back
would be.
to us with recommendations
Mayor, I'm
on that.
perfectly
Commissioner
comfortable
Fish.
I'm perfectly comfortable with your office absorbing this cost.
Thank you for your generosity, Commissioner Fish. I appreciate that.
Did you say you're going to come back in 3 weeks with this evaluation?
No, in
with-
3 weeks
with
with
a
a
source of
cost
funding.
estimate.
It's
as
taking
to
so long.
What an
Okay.
external
Yeah,
evaluation.
for all the amendments have to have an identified source of funding, and I didn't see it.
Well, currently it does not have a source of funding.
Okay.
And that would be,
So you'll
one of
come back
my
with that.
concerns.
Very good. Any further conversations or discussion around this item? Very good. Please call the roll, Carla.
Fish.
Aye?
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The amendment is adopted. And how are you guys doing on your drafting on the fly?
I think we're good.
Got a proposal?
Maybe we should do Udaly, then come back at the
Yeah,
end?
why don't we do that? We'll go ahead and finish. And then Commissioner Saltzman, you also have a couple of amendments. Commissioner Udaly?
So I'm making a motion to increase or restore the funding for Prosper Portland Small Business Growth Program, which reads as Prosper Portland, allocate $87,500 of one-time general fund resources to Prosper Portland to fund a second cohort of small business owners in Prosper Portland's Increase project. The funding source for this add will be an $87,500 one-time reduction to general fund contingency. Amend attachments B, C, and E as necessary.
Second.
We
And
have a
I-
motion from Commissioner Daly, a second from Commissioner Fritz. Any further conversation?
I'd just like
Questions?
to add that
Commissioner Daly?
I heard from a number of constituents, including Business for a Better Portland, which is a new small business advocacy group in the city, and Coalitions for Community of Color, who both expressed their desire to see this funding restored. There's small grants for, I believe, women and minority business owners, and they can really make a significant difference in a fledgling business.
Very good. And I would just add to the commentary, this is actually a very good program, and it was offered up by the PDC as part of its 5% reduction package. Any further comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye?
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The amendment is adopted. Commissioner Saltzman?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to offer an amendment to restore the summer parks program in Brooklyn Park. I think we heard a lot of testimony at our budget hearings about the impact of this program. And Brooklyn is a unique neighborhood where its park really is kind of the center of the neighborhood, and I'd like to see us for $10,000 maintain the staffing for a summer program there.
How much?
$10,000.
I'll second that.
I have no idea, how, this has not been raised with me, or has it been raised with you, Matt Wheeler?
I know what the program is because I had to go through the budget line item by line item. But why don't you explain what it is?
Oh, it's to provide staff to have a summer in the parks program in the Brooklyn Park.
So the
Summer
challenge,
free-for-all, I think is what it's formally called by the Parks Bureau.
it's still for summer free-for-all in the areas that have a significant number of children getting free school lunches from the school districts. When Commissioner Fish started this program, or at least greatly enhanced it during the recession, he did a lot of fundraising every year to add, I think it was $150,000 overall, to have the programs in most parks in the city. Every year we've fallen short of being able to do that amount of fundraising, and so this was a right sizing of the Summer Free for All program. And I don't know what the cost of doing it is or what the logistics of doing it would be.
Well, the figures we got from the Parks Bureau, $10,000 is roughly the staff cost for the summer program. And as I said, we did hear a lot of public testimony in support of this program. I think the park in Brooklyn neighborhood is the center of the neighborhood, and I think for $10,000, it's a good investment.
Dan,
in
can I
kids.
ask you something? Could you give us
Commissioner Fish.
a preview of your second amendment?
No, I don't have a second amendment.
So that's your
Yeah,
only request?
that is the amendment, yes.
Commissioner Fritz, assuming that you continue as Parks Commissioner, does this alter in any way your planning over the next year in terms of services at Brooklyn?
I can't answer that, Commissioner, because although Mike Abate can testify to it if the council agrees to put this on the table, the challenge is that Brooklyn is a relatively affluent neighbourhood these days. That's why it's no longer getting the free program, because it's become more affluent. So I'm troubled by the concept of, because one lot of neighbours came in and asked for it back, will that continue until we're back up to it being whoever has enough time to go to meetings to get a program in their park?
Andrew, can I ask you a question? Because I'm thinking of something you said during our budget process I just want to be clear about. And that was, notwithstanding whatever earmark we make on funds, I think you reminded us that the commissioner in charge has broad discretion as to how to spend the funds. Is that correct?
Yeah, generally speaking, that's true, yes.
So Commissioner Saltzman is proposing, in effect, to add $10,000 to the Parks Bureau budget with an advisory recommendation about how the money be spent, but the commissioner in charge makes that decision.
Well, I think,
Council
we-
intent matters too. though.
yeah, I think council intent has some bearing on this. And, we've heard lots of people come to budget hearings to testify for their issue, and they get funded. I mean, Open Signal is probably the best example. We just funded Open Signal because they turned out in force at our budget hearing. I think we should give the same respect to a neighborhood and its young people who organize on behalf of their summer program in the park, in what I think is a very important neighborhood in the city. So I think the same rationale applies, that council can provide some intent as to how a bureau spends a certain amount of funds, especially if we're providing the funds through a contingency tab.
Would these funds come from the contingency?
That was actually going to be my
Yes.
clarifying
Okay.
question, yes.
Yes,
So,
they come from
and
contingency.
Commissioner, was that one-time or ongoing funding?
One time.
And Commissioner
Commissioner
Fritz,
Daley.
are there other neighborhoods that don't have these programs?
Yes, and indeed some that don't have it because of the right sizing of the programme. Mike Abate can talk to this if council wants to put it on the table.
Okay.
Any further questions or discussion? Please call the roll.
Fish,
Dan, I appreciate you bringing this forward, but after listening to the conversation, I do have a concern about funding this without a context. And this program has been scaled back over time because of resources, and so we're doing a little bit of triage. And I would entertain a subsequent request for one-time funding if there was a basis. I don't know enough really to support this. I appreciate you bringing it forward. No.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Udaley,
Well, it's hard to vote against funding a summer program, but I'm kind of in the same position to Commissioner Fish. If there is extra money to be had, I'd want to first look at which neighborhoods were most in need, and it doesn't sound like Brooklyn would make that cut necessarily. No.
Fritz,
So my wonderful staff are texting me rapidly on all forms. The other ones that are not continuing this year are Grant, Laurelhurst, and Wallace. We have offered to work with the Brooklyn community to have them develop their own program in Brooklyn. And indeed, I would be concerned about doing this one time now. Do they then start into the Buckman Pool conversation of having to come year after year after year to get one-time funding? But another suggestion that my Chief of Staff has said, that perhaps we could bring it to the adopted budget after we've had time to talk about it, you and I, and the Parks staff.
Okay.
I'd be happy to do that moving forward, but no for right now.
Wheeler,
So the amendment has died, so I would appeal to Commissioner Saltzman to do what Commissioner Fritz and Commissioner Fish has suggested, which is flesh the proposal out and then bring it back potentially for some of the innovation funds, or perhaps there's a way, just given that it is a relatively small item and it is the only thing that you are asking for today. I'd like to see that work honored in some way. So I would ask my colleagues to see if they cannot work that out. I will vote with the majority. I will vote no, but I'd like to see your work respected and honored in this regard. So we'll continue to work with you on it. The amendment fails.
I just want to make sure that Commissioner Saltzman's previous amendment on the Vision Zero funding being able to go to that refugee training and immigrant training program, that's already in there?
It's in the mayor's
Good.
file
That's
budget.
correct.
Thank you.
So we have one more, and our incredible on-the-fly amendment drafters have been busy at work. What do you got for us?
So council expresses its intent to fund $967,000 in transportation services to lower-income high school students who attend the Park Rose, David Douglas, and Portland Public School Districts. Council further expresses its intent to hold a work session to determine the appropriate allocation of these resources, followed by action to appropriate those funds.
Second.
I just want to.
Well, actually, is that your amendment?
Well,
Could you read it again slowly, please?
Sure. Council expresses its intent to fund $967,000 in transportation services to lower-income high school students who attend the Park Rose, David Douglas, and Portland Public School Districts. Council further expresses its intent to hold a work session to determine the appropriate allocation of those resources, followed by action to appropriate those funds.
So one of my concerns is what we are basing the needs assessment on, because I don't believe that free and reduced lunch is a reasonable cutoff, because you have to be extremely low income to qualify for those services. So I want to make sure that by saying low income, we're not restricting ourselves to a specific criteria.
So I think the term lower income is generic enough that during the work
Okay.
session, council would be able to define that term.
That could be under 100% of MFI,
Right.
for instance.
I
Okay.
agree with
definitely.
my colleagues'
Okay.
legislative intent on that. Andrew, the only other wordsmithing I want to just raise is it says we intend to fund. We are in fact funding this. I mean, this is a one-time general fund. I think it should be stated that we are in fact funding one time, the tune of 900-something thousand, and then, but we are going to determine how the money is allocated through a separate process.
Right.
I would make that one tweak, because we're not intending to fund it, we are funding it.
Good. Council is funding.
Excuse me,
And
so
also-
that was a motion then by Fritz, it was amended by Daly, it was seconded by Fish, if I got that all correct.
And did we say who's going to do that, or does anybody want to raise their hand to volunteer to do the organising of it? I'll work with Commissioner Daly. How's that? Thank you.
We got it.
Because I want to also add in there, not in the motion, but just to declare my legislative intent. There are places in East Portland that really don't have very good TriMet service. So I would assume that the school boards would be thinking about what works in their district. Again, in addition to the lower income students, that if you already live so far away from a transit line, a pass is not going to help you very much. So it could be that they're going to fund different things in transportation.
So I'll put my comments on the table again. I will absolutely support this amendment as amended, and I want to appreciate the work my colleagues have put into trying to find the right solution. But I also want to be the budget wet blanket and say, as good as this program is, and as popular as this program is, and as needed as this program is, I continue to wonder why the City of Portland is funding it at all. It is not a core service, and the conversations we're having here are conversations that school boards should be having, or perhaps the state, which created the yellow bus law with the school boards, maybe they should be having this conversation, or maybe they should be supporting us in our efforts to fund this important service in the community. I mean, there's no end to really important, valued services in the community, but this one really is the round peg in the square hole, as far as I'm concerned. I appreciate the work that Commissioner Fritz did trying to address the second glaring problem with this program, which is that it is wholly inequitable for us to be funding Portland Public School students and acting as though the other two districts, Parkrose and David Douglas, aren't Portland students. They are. But it's further complicated by the fact that they have not declined their resources from the state around yellow bus services. So part of your work session is going to have to be digging deep and understanding the implications of us trying to fund something where there's already a conflicting state law that's in place and that the legislature has put into place. And then there's the third part that I'm really interested in, which is what is the real cost of this program? What is the true incremental cost of adding students onto already existing TriMet bus routes? Are they crowding out other customers? Are they adding additional buses? Are there busloads of people waiting to pay who are passed up because the buses are so full of students? I would like to know, how is our money actually being used in the context of this program? And is the real additional marginal cost of this program really the $3 million that is stated as the true cost of this program? I think we have a right to know that if we're funding this. But I really want to be very clear as I support this today, that as important as this program is, and we heard from the youth commissioners loudly and clearly during our budget forums, this is ask number one. It's really important to them, and I get it, and we're going to fund it this year. We're not going to leave people wondering what's going on come July 1. But I want to have some very serious conversations about this program and its continuation as a city service before we fund it again.
And thank you.
Sorry
That
for the
reminds me,
long
let's
diatribe.
make sure we have the last sentence in the motion, that furthermore, Council directs PBOT to complete an independent objective analysis of TriMet's actual costs associated with the programme, either through increased expenses or foregone revenues. Thank you.
Should I read the whole thing again, and if somebody wants to
Why don't
introduce
you
it
do
as
it
a,
once
as a,
more,
as
just
a one
to be- for
motion,
the
just to make
record?
sure that we've got
Yeah,
everything?
once more.
Okay. Okay. So council is funding $967,000 in transportation services to lower-income high school students who attend the Parkrose, David Douglas, and Portland Public School Districts. Council expresses its intent to hold a work session to determine the appropriate allocation of those resources, followed by an action to appropriate those funds. Furthermore, council directs PBOT to complete an independent objective analysis of TriMet's actual costs associated with the program, either through increased expenses or foregone revenues.
All
Thank
right.
you. Well done.
Nice, good job. Any further comments or conversation to be had? Please call the roll.
Fish,
I thank all my colleagues for, I think, a very productive conversation. Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaley,
Aye.
Fritz,
Thank you for making it better. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, great work. The amendment's adopted, great drafting. So does that conclude the amendments? So we have
Okay.
some professional
So
staff.
actually, at this stage, Mayor, I just want to make sure we don't miss step 7 of the script. So with those amendments that the Budget Committee has put on the table, and all of them have been approved with the exception of the Saltzman Amendment around Brooklyn Park, we now need
But before we go to B, C, and D, we have a whole group of on-duty officers who've been waiting. Can they testify now and be dismissed before we go through and approve the exhibits? Is it necessary for us to approve the exhibits right now?
As Budget Committee, you can call folks up at any time. to
I'd
talk.
like to call those folks
Okay,
up.
we
because
we
they've
need to
been
do this
standing
step
there.
before we
Great.
move to public testimony.
Mayor,
Understood.
Okay.
Can I just make an
Commissioner
observation?
Fish.
And I take a backseat to no one on this council in support of SCT. I just want to be very clear. The issue, the amendment that we've adopted today for consideration has to do with the color of money, has to do whether one-time or ongoing money. It in no way, in my view, is a comment by the council on the merits of the program, which we're free to revisit any time, and on some level, sort of, weighing the lives saved through Vision Zero versus the lives saved through SCT. I think that's for a higher authority to make that call. So I hope that no one from the Police Bureau believes they have to come to this budget forum and defend the program, because it would be my intent to continue to fund them as one commissioner with one-time or ongoing money, as long as they're getting the outcomes that they're getting. So it's not for me a referendum on their outcomes.
Great, and I think it's important to make that clarification that we are in fact funding the program in the budget as proposed and through the amendments that have just been put on the table. So with that, if you'd like to come up and say a few words, we'd be delighted to have you, and thank you for your patience. Good afternoon, and if you can just state your name for the record, please.
Yeah, I'm Chris Davis, Assistant Chief with the Portland Police Bureau.
I'm Emily Roshan, Service Coordination Team Program Manager with the Police Bureau.
So Mayor and Commissioners, we've already been over a lot of the benefits of the Service Coordination Team, and so I'll keep this fairly quick.
Thank you.
Our only questions about this amendment are that our concern is that our current contract with Central City Concern runs through June 30th of 2019 for just south of $4.6 million. As noted earlier, this program is required, or some successor is required in the DOJ settlement agreement, and so our concern really at this point is about funding this program after July of 18. The increase in staffing relative to vacancies within the Police Bureau, particularly by the end of fiscal 17-18, is going to put pressure on our ability to use salary savings for one-time expenses, and so that's going to put additional pressure on our budget that is less likely to be available for programs like this. We also would advocate for the use of some of this marijuana money for traffic enforcement. The city's statistics are that from 2004 to 2013, 91% of fatalities involved some form of impairment on the part of
Chief,
the operator.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've left 500,000 of the marijuana tax money in the traffic division, so that's not taken away.
Right. Thank you. So that's really it. I have Emily here if you're interested in any specific information about the program or outcomes or anything.
Great. The results have been very good. As Commissioner Fish said at the beginning of the discussion, there were a lot of questions about whether this would be a successful partnership, and the data I've received suggests it's very successful, that it works with some of the most chronically homeless people, connecting them with important services that they need. It connects people with potential behavioral health issues with service providers rather than sending them to jail. And it gives people sustained long-term support. So I just want to underscore what you heard up there. We do get it, and it is a highly valued program, and you've done a great job. I want certain people to hear me say this. You have done a great job in the Police Bureau running this program, and your partnership with Central City has been an exemplary one. So thank you.
Here, I'll go one step further. They didn't play this card, but I'll play that for them. We understand also that if this program were to discontinue, it'll end up costing our community more money, because we'll go back to the old and not very creative solution about locking up people who have drug addictions and then releasing them after they've done their time no better off, versus actually addressing their addiction and helping them transition to becoming productive members of society. And if anyone doubts the success of this program, I would invite them to come to the graduation ceremonies with SCT folks who have turned their lives around and have begun new lives because of the counseling and the services they've received. So we thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for your patience. Any further questions? Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so to the exhibits. So I'll call for a motion to approve the budget adjustments and attachments B, C, and D of the memo as amended.
Yeah, and let me be really clear. This is not a vote to approve the budget.
No.
This is simply council as the budget committee. All of the amendments you've just discussed that there is support for, as well as the changes to the proposed budget that you filed last week, this puts them all officially on the table for public conversation.
Correct.
Testimony.
So I'm not making, you are making the motion, Commissioner Daly, Commissioner Fritz, second. So now we're ready for public testimony.
Now we need a vote now to, but, yeah.
Please call the roll.
Aye?
Saltzman? Aye. Udaly?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye.
Wheeler?
Aye. So the budget adjustments in attachments B, C, and D of the memo is amended, is approved.
Including all the amendments we just talked about.
All of the
approved
amendments
for
we just talked about.
Public testimony.
Very good. Thank you. Now we go to public testimony. How many people are interested in public testimony? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can
I
do
show
3
9
minutes.
people signed up.
How many?
9.
Okay, yeah, 3 minutes is good.
First 3, please, coming up are Mary Sipe, Emma Calloway, and Mark Goldberg.
Mary, you get your full 3 minutes this afternoon. Great, I'm glad.
I'll take a deep breath here. Hello again. My name is Mary Sipe. First thing I want to say is thank you. I've was ill the last couple of weeks, and so I've been watching a lot of the budget conversations on my TV, and I just want to say that I feel heard. When I see the things that are in the budget, there are a number of things that I've given public testimony on that have been put in the budget. And I'll just name a couple of them. I've given testimony about the graffiti abatement funding and the issues around that, and some issues around the additional park rangers, issues that we've had with crime and safety issues in our neighborhood. I've given testimony about affordable housing, and there's definitely things there for that. I do want to say that I support the funding that you've suggested with the state revenue sharing for the Police Bureau. I think any funding that we can allocate to our understaffed Police Bureau that will help with added training on dealing with mental health crisis and things of that nature is really needed, and that I totally support anything of that nature. I also want to thank you for declaring this Older Americans Month. I'm one of those older Americans, and I was thinking while I was sitting here this morning watching a number of young people participating in city government, how I didn't start participating in city government until I became a senior citizen, and made me wonder kind of what kind of impact might I have had at this stage in my life if I had started out as a teenager in high school. I also want to thank you for the funding for the, I can't remember what you're calling it, age-friendly city or whatever. You'll recall that a couple of weeks ago I gave some very emotional testimony about the plight of elderly people over 65 living on Social Security and struggling to survive in our community with increasing rents. And I just want to say I really support what you're doing. I'm incredibly appreciative of the process and the opportunity that you've given to citizens like myself to give input. And again, I feel heard, and thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler and members of the commission. My name is Emma Calloway. I'm the Government Relations Director for Portland Community College, and you asked if there are any registered lobbyists. I'm a registered lobbyist in the state of Oregon.
Appreciate that information.
Absolutely. Today I'm here because in your budget you have a $400,000 request to the state for additional workforce dollars, and we're here to testify on meeting that need that you've requested for partners that you haven't worked with before, but may be able to meet some of those workforce needs that you're trying to address and also help to fill the skills gap. We hear all the time from employers through Portland Community College for additional workforce training that would help to kind of fill this advanced manufacturing skills gap or a number of other issues. And Portland Community College and Mount Hood Community College that we're here to represent today have kind of put together an idea about how to think more creatively and support that we would definitely need from the city to continue to expand the workforce work that we do for the city. I will highlight that there was a Georgetown University study recently that came out that illustrated over 11 million jobs across the country, that 11.5 million of those 11.6 million jobs really do need some sort of education past high school. And we think that there's a real opportunity to expand Portland Community College's role in not necessarily a 2-year, not always a 4-year degree, but what other career pathway programs can we help create that get folks moving into the workforce. So in other words, 99% of job growth we know will go to folks who need some sort of additional training, and we'd like to continue to provide that. We provide that now, and we'd like to grow that program. So I'll turn it over, but the last thing I just wanted to say is that between Mount Hood Community College and Portland Community College, we want to continue to provide innovative, strategic ways to address the skills gap and to provide creative education that get folks back into the workforce as quickly as possible. And this approach of connecting high-quality training, college certificates, and industry-recognized credentials, in addition to student-supported services, kind of help people get through to their path and help people graduate from Portland Community College with a real career path opportunity. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Mark Goldberg, the Associate VP at Portland Community College for Workforce Development, to kind of talk about our suggestion.
Thank you.
Mayor Wheeler and members of the commission, for the record, my name is Mark Goldberg, and I'm the Associate VP for Workforce Development and Continuing Ed at Portland Community College. What I wanted to do is talk a little bit about the proven results of our Career Pathways programs as they align with student success, workforce development, equity and inclusion, and also really align with regional workforce sector strategies. So Mount Hood Community College and PCC's high-quality career pathways programs that integrate career coaching and wraparound support have had an 89 to 94% college credential completion rate, and that's a range because we've got 2 colleges there, 75 to 85% employment rate, and 72% persistence in college after getting their first credential from our students. Career Pathways programs really do reach underserved populations and close the achievement gap through strategic outreach, community partnership with our workforce board, with WorkSource Oregon and community-based organizations, and with recruitment. And so far, our results over the last few years in Career Pathways, we've been able to serve over 50% students of color, 50% low-income students, and 40% students who are either starting in GED prep, who are either non-native English speakers and or generally underskilled adults. Our Career Pathways initiative with PCC and Mount Hood, and really the state of Oregon's Community College Pathways program, has been recognized nationally. We've been recognized through the White House Ready to Work initiative under the Obama administration, Center for Law and Social Policy, National Skills Coalition, Workforce Strategy Center, Community College Research Center, the League for Innovation, and a Community College Consortium for Immigrant Education. And so I think the best way also of telling the story is to hear a student success story, and our students weren't able, or graduates weren't able to join, but I have a quick one. LaShawn was laid off from his CNC laser position and needed to retrain. He heard about PCC's Career Pathways and the HVAC program at Swan Island, which I know Mayor Wheeler, you toured last year. He registered and completed the 6 months of training. Career Pathways arranged several job shadows for him with various employers. LaShawn continued his education toward his associates in facilities maintenance while increasing his professional network. He's about to start an internship with a leading HVAC company with a potential hire at the end. LaShawn said he really valued the classes and the support course offered by PCC. He also values the support of Career Pathways team and the job shadow and business connections he's been able to make because of the team. Since LaShawn has 2 employers who are trying to competitively hire him, he will have employment by the end of the summer term 2017. He can expect an entry wage of $16 to $22 an hour and the potential to make around $75,000 a year.
That's great.
So that's one student. I have multiple success stories, and also one with an employer, and we're going to leave you a letter from Vigor Industrial, which is a really important manufacturer in our region down in Swan Island. And we're running out of time, but just wanted to have a joint ask between Mount Hood and PCC of $200,000 of the $400,000 for workforce development to support Career Pathways programs.
So that's your ask?
That's the ask.
200,000 of the 400,000 to PCC Mount Hood?
Together.
And what's the relationship between Career Pathways and Future Connect?
So there's some alignment with Career Pathways and Future Connect. Future Connect is really focused on students coming out of high school and transitioning to post-secondary. Career Pathways, we've done some work with youth and some really successful work in partnership with our workforce board. But Career Pathways is also designed for dislocated workers, lower skilled adults, non-native English speakers, GED prep students. So it's a broader initiative that's really focused on career and technical education.
So can I also just, since you're flagging for us an opportunity, let me just throw one back at you, which is, since you mentioned Vigor in particular, so we're leading an effort around Superfund, which is going to have a substantial jobs component locally. And as we figure out, who the parties are at the table, work systems, state employment, EPA, and others, it sounds to me like we need to have you at the table to help us understand how to create opportunities for the students that you're educating. And there may be some funding opportunities through that process to support workforce training. So we'll reach out to you on that.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Fish. Just to address Commissioner Fritz's question, the services that we provide for Future Connect students versus Career Pathway students have very different set of counselors, different set of wraparound services. So in terms of the budget, they are 2 very separate programs. And to grow Career Pathways, that is the request we have before you today.
What's the 400,000 that you're referencing?
It's a very small budget note within your budget, as I understand it, that I read, that calls out non-traditional partners for workforce development programs.
Okay, I'll get some more information from our budget staff. Thank you.
Yes, I can help you find it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next 3, please.
Are Sarah Hobbs with Antigone Jarrett, and it'll be Carla Nutt. Yeah, I'll take it. Sure.
Sarah, did you want to start?
I want you to see this for the support, because I actually support what the pastor commented on at the beginning, and I will explain why. For the record, my name is Sarah Hobbs. For the past 18 months, I've been partnering with the Behavioral Health Unit, predominantly their Enhanced Crisis Intervention team. I fully support that the part of the recreational marijuana tax go to the BHU, I believe, SCT program. But my biggest fear is that there not be a guarantee that the money cannot be diverted to other groups like Rapid Response. This past May 1st, trying to get out of downtown, I went where we were ordered to go. I was on a sidewalk, 5 Rapid Response officers, a direct violation of the rule. They are not supposed to be on the sidewalk unless they are arresting the person they are pushing. Pushed me down the sidewalk solely because they were in a hurry to get to the other end of the sidewalk. The whole time I had my hands up like this going, I'm disabled, I'm going as fast as I can. They pushed me faster and I lost control of my bladder and ended up wetting my pants and they pushed me into a kennel. And then I had to walk 8 blocks up, down, my back and spasmed and my pants soiled to catch the streetcar to come home. I fully support that the recreational money go to the BHU SCT program, but what guarantees do I have that that money will not be diverted to other police agencies? I have, as you can see, that is page 4 of the January BHU newsletter. That I am proud of, but I need to know that that money will not be diverted from the source that it's put into the budget, and what guarantees do we have of that? That's my question.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Good afternoon.
All right, she's.
Hi, my name is Antigonus Jarrett, and I am here to support Sarah Hobbs. I just want to clarify that our concerns are specifically the way that money is going to be used for behavioral health and whether or not it will be used specifically for behavioral health. Because many, many people self-medicate. It would make a lot of sense for behavioral health to come out of this budget, but it wouldn't make a lot of sense for the police budget to come out of this when we should be diverting those funds to help people. I very much agree with what Fish and Saltzman were saying earlier about how this behavioral health unit is basically preventative maintenance for the whole city of making sure that people are healthy and happy. And I would like a good explanation of exactly what the money is going to be going to and exactly how those programs are going to be helping members of the community. And I would like it if those were made accessible easily on the council's website.
So the good news is we've had extensive council hearings over the years on SCT, and we have annual reports. So if you give us your contact information, we can get that to you. It is one of the most transparent programs we have, which is also why it's been one of the most controversial, because in the early days, people had strong views on both sides. It's a fair question to ask. And just to be clear, Sarah, because you raised it, the amendment that we've voted on that's now before is to take a portion of the marijuana money and flip out some money so that the marijuana money, tax money, funds Vision Zero, which is programs to save people's lives. And one-time money backfills service coordination team, which is dedicated to that one use. And you're concerned about it leaking into something else. That can't happen without council approval.
Okay.
But thank you for raising it.
That's the big concern in light of what happened to me on the first with those officers that I heard were very blatant disregard of an established rapid response officer policy about when they are and aren't supposed to be on sidewalks. They were not supposed to be on the sidewalk doing what they did.
Thank you.
So I also have one other concern, and that is I don't know exactly what the scope of this behavioral health unit is. I haven't done as much research as I would have preferred before I came here. But There was a young man who had mental illness who was shot recently while running away with a box cutter in a park. I have to wonder whether or not the mental health services that he needed would have been available to him. And I wonder if the behavioral health units are making sure that they are taking into account our most vulnerable. And I know that Amanda Fritz and Chloe Udaly and Ted Wheeler, I know that you all care about this greatly because of what I heard earlier. And I want to say thank you for that, because that tells me that I know you're taking it seriously. However, I do not have confidence in the way that we deal with behavioral and mental health in this city, that it will necessarily save lives to divert more money, and I would be very happy in learning how it will help. However, I really, really have that reservation because I keep seeing more and more people die, like that young man who was shot just, I think, a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here this morning as well as this afternoon. Christina Nieves in my office actually sits on the Behavioral Health Unit Advisory Committee. So if you want to, she may be available right now, but if not, I'm sure she'd be happy to make an appointment to talk to you and hear your concerns and explain some of the work of the Bureau.
Thank you so much.
The situation she mentioned involved the transit police. What would be great if we could get communication between the different divisions at the Police Bureau about what is available if different units outside of the behavioral health unit come across somebody in their division who's in a mental health crisis. Who can they call at the BHU, the Enhanced Crisis Intervention Team? Because they
Exactly.
are doing
I just
great
want to make
work.
sure that the behavioral health unit is being used appropriately as opposed to other police officers responding. That is pretty much what I was trying to say.
Thank you.
All
Well
right,
said. Thank you.
I'd like to turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience.
Sure. Very inspirational testimony.
Yeah.
My name's Carla Nutt. I live in Lads Addition. I'm a fifth-generation Oregonian, and I've lived in Portland since 91, and from 92, being in Lads. I've been on the Friends of Lads Additions Gardens boards for several years, so has my husband, and I'm here today representing the neighbors of Lads Addition and our extended community. I'd really like you to please not eliminate the $100,000 that you have we had originally dedicated to the maintenance of our 4 rose gardens and our 1 rhododendron garden that's with 5 parks in our neighborhood. I can't even think about how many hours our neighbors have spent in these parks, not only enjoying themselves, but also working side by side with the city in deadheading roses, adopt-a-rose programs, and weeding and mulching, and many, many other countless activities. And we enjoy that. But we really can't do it on our own. I don't know how we would maintain all of the roses. There's so many. And we couldn't do them justice. They are test gardens, and I don't even know how we would begin to have the knowledge to maintain them. Some of the neighbors who live in our neighborhood are aging, as many of our neighbors are, and some of them I spoke with this week to ask them what they would want me to say to you. And some of our neighbors can't leave their homes very easily anymore, so the Lads Gardens are their only parks that they can visit in. So I speak here on behalf of them. I did a little bit of research. I'm sure I didn't do it justice, but I have a couple questions because I don't understand. Our neighborhood is historically designated. It's on the National Historic Register. And so I did a little research, and I looked up the Oregon Revised Statute number 358.653. That dictates that the city of Portland could not remove funding for these parks based on the language that I saw within that document. And also, if you read the section 7, page 7.21 of the application form for the National Registry of Historical Places for LADS additions, you'll see that all 5 of the gardens are contributing resources. They're contributing factors toward that historical designation. So I think we also need to consider that they're contributing factors. And believe me, I've been told what I can and can't do with my house, which is fine, because that's why I chose to live there, for the historical greatness of the neighborhood. But I hope that also the city will respect the historical status of our neighborhood.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up pretty soon.
Oh.
Great.
Okay, I've got 29 seconds.
No, it's actually counting up now.
Oh, I'm over? It
Yeah,
did-
it's all right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you have a couple more points,
Oh,
go ahead and
gosh,
make
I'm
them.
so sorry.
No worries.
Well, I'll skip part of it. But I just have a question, do the gardens revert back to the LAD estate if they are not cared for to the terms set in the transfer of the gardens to the city of Portland? That's one of my questions. I have some other questions. I'll email them to you.
Okay, that's good, and we'll respond to those.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for your testimony. Next 3, please.
Our star staffer, Ramon de Luna Luvano, and Jennifer Fung. And those are the last 3 who signed up.
Very good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Council. Star Stoffer, for those who don't know me, but I find that hard to believe at this point. I want to parrot some of the things that Sarah and Antigonus brought up in regards to the team of police that deals with mental health crisis. And the reason that I'm concerned is because most of the police shootings in the past 10 years here in the city of Portland have involved people who were in a mental health crisis. So in that regards, the program seems almost like lip service in a lot of ways. I understand that it's reduced the recidivism rate for people who are repeat offenders or struggling chronically with these types of ailments. However, what I find interesting is that that glowing report in that regard did not take into account how many people the police have shot here in Portland over the last 10 years that were actually in a mental health crisis. And I think if we're going to really talk about that, we need to also talk about the ways in which the Portland police have actually damaged the community and contributed to their mental health crises, and how they are not necessarily and most often seriously dangerous to people who are in a mental health crisis. They've proven time and again that they cannot handle that type of situation. So perhaps some of the money can go to training these police outside of that particular team on how to better handle those types of individuals so that they're not pulling the trigger as often as they are. The other concern that I have is in regards to the student bus passes. I understand it's not considered necessarily a core service. I just find it interesting that we're having this conversation about TriMet, considering that, I mean, and I know you guys are tired of hearing it, but it is relevant to this particular issue, giving, free rides to known hate groups and white supremacists, who have harassed a march where people of color were marching, and then having a discussion about whether or not we should be providing bus passes for youth to get to and from school and summer programs. Also, again, it seems a little disgusting and distasteful. This is an investment in our children's education. It's an investment in our children's safety. It's an investment in our children being able to participate in year-round activities outside of the home, and to be able to be transported around our city and be involved in things outside of their own neighborhood. To me, it just seems like it's in the city's best interest to be investing in the youth in that regard. I don't think it's asking that much. I did like the comment where Saltzman said that it seems that all it takes to get funding is that people have to show up to city council. And he was quite flippant about it. That's not true. We've been coming here, week after week after week since December, begging and pleading to be brought to the table to get funds allocated to really seriously help and sustain programs for our houseless neighbors. And that hasn't been the case, and it hasn't been well received. So, and we're also begging and pleading for funds to be allocated to families who have lost loved ones due to police violence, and that hasn't been well received or even talked about. So I think that that comment was quite flippant and distasteful, just because you're not getting the money you want for your affluent park. And in that regard, I'd like you to take some time, maybe have a work session to go over, I know you're going to do that with the bus passes, but really talk about these things, because that's not the case, Mr. Saltzman, as you have seen time and again. And I take exception to that.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up. Thank you.
I don't care.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Oh, my mic. Good afternoon. My name is Ramon de Luna Luevano. I'm a 9th grader at Madison High School, and I've been a part of Opal's youth leadership group, Youth Environmental Justice Alliance, for over a year and a half now. Youth Pass is an issue that I'm really passionate about because my siblings and I attend different high schools, and we've had different experiences with youth access to transit. I grew up watching my older brother struggle to get to school and accessing important needs because he didn't have Youth Pass. He was a student at David Douglas, and during the time, he struggled paying for bus tickets every day. And as a student who currently goes to Madison, I know that it's a relief not having to worry about how to find the money when I need to go somewhere. I don't have to deal with the fear of being stranded somewhere without money to take the bus. For many families of color and students, I can't stress enough how important Youth Pass is to us. At the Youth Environmental Justice Alliance, students like me have been putting lots of efforts onto this campaign. We designed surveys to understand the conditions in East Portland schools and worked with the school administration to collect over 2,500 surveys. We met with Principal Beyer at David Douglas to go over our key fundings, testified at the school boards of David Douglas and Park Rose, and informed many adults on what equity should look like. In meetings with the Multnomah Youth Commission, we would sit together to look at data regarding PPS in East Portland school districts and talk about proposals and options for Youth Pass. I'm saying this because it's important to recognize the work and leadership of young people on this issue. Our continued ask of the city, besides sustaining and expanding Youth Pass to East Portland, is that we want adults to make space for youth in the process of these decisions. With the new amendment, youth can be valued in weighing in and sharing what we know to make sure that it's equitable and well-planned. We support using the funds to support the 3 different school districts, but what we want to see is a plan to have city representatives, youth leaders, and school districts to talk through what the rollout plan and arrangement looks like. I know we can make that happen because we have been in communication with some of these people already. I personally appreciate that the City Council is talking about an equity approach. I know that students at Yasia and NYC are glad that our elected officials are listening to our feedback. We hope that you can all continue to support Youth Pass and commit to the follow-up work that is needed. This will be a huge step towards the right direction. We are ready and engaged. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent testimony.
And I
Commissioner Fritz.
expect I speak for Commissioner Daly. We hope you'll be part of the work session to figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer. I am the organizer at Opal Environmental Justice Oregon. I have a lot of what the young people would say feels right now because I think we've been talking about expansion of Youth Pass for many years. Actually, the community has been talking about it. I've joined this work the last 2 years, and it's exciting to see that the City Council is taking action to make it equitable. We are really excited to be part of the work group, working closely with Commissioner Udaley's office on convening those who are most affected and also the stakeholders in that. I think that in regards to the role of the city and where the state and the school districts land in this arrangement, I would say it's not that easy to advocate at the state level. I think that if it's that hard to figure out the different conditions between PPS and the East Portland school districts, it's even harder statewide to look at the different conditions between rural and urban cities. And that's the issue that I've been learning about personally through our advocacy at Opal, because since 2015, we've actually been advocating at the state level for a youth transit bill. It didn't pass. It created a work group. And this year, we're trying again at another youth transit bill. And I think that we recognize that there is a role for the state to play to make sure that there's sustained funds, helping school districts to increase their capacity to fund this. But all in all, I think that we want collaboration with the city to make sure that, you know, all these other government levels are involved. So thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to do that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Was there any other public testimony?
Others who didn't get to sign up requested to speak, if you wanted to take them.
How many do you have?
I know of one.
Just one? Come on up. And this will be the last one. Last gentleman, come on up,
I
sir.
feel so out of place. I thank you guys
No
for
worries.
listening to me. I've tried to call your office, Mr. Wheeler, a couple times, because over the last 6 years, I came from the East Coast in Virginia.
I'm sorry, could you state your name for the record?
My name's John.
Thanks, John.
Right, from Virginia. If a policeman ever sees me doing something crazy on the street, comes to ask me what my name is, I'm John. What's your name, brother? And the automatic response I get is his first name, how you doing, and goes on. Could I have mental health issues? Yeah. Could it be caused because what most mental health issues are is probably people involved in substance. And if you can't rule out a substance abuse and mental health issues, there's a problem. There's a problem around here with substance abuse, okay? The homeless problem, part of the problem is you guys putting in the media that there's a homeless problem because there are people that really care. They're out on the streets muddying any kind of success that anybody could have because they're catering to folks that are learning that they don't have to fend for themselves in Portland. I've got a nice work truck. I left my tools in Chicago. I wanted to talk today because I have to go back there next week. What I wanted to propose is I heard you guys talking about a work session, and I have a whole lot of ideas. I don't know if you've ever seen footage of a guy with a trombone being the fool in your town, but I've seen police on a lot of occasions seeing what I'm doing and videotaping me, and I'm like, if you're gonna take me, single cell, please, because I can't. Oh my gosh, this is legal. Guys, this is legal to have fun. Like, why aren't you guys having fun? I was a leprechaun. 3 wishes. Get where you're going safely, have more fun in your lives, and get back home to the people that you care about so you can think about what's really important. And when I hear about training, paid training to get a paid job, I hear entitlement in my head to where this caste system that could possibly start up with generational birth defects just because people don't care about dimes. So, hey, I look like somebody that needs dimes. I'll go grab one. I hope you don't give me a lottery ticket and make sure the people that saw me pick it up throw it down too. Y'all don't need your dimes. I don't neither. You know what? They don't matter, do they? No, now somebody gets to think about that. So what I do is really abrasive. I've put myself through this training in my life that when I look back, like, oh my gosh, I've trained myself to do something big if I can get in with the right people. It was the police and a group that deals with the mental health, or they call themselves the Angels, a few years back, would always come down to where we were playing guitar on the weekend, 3rd and Silverado, where the gay guys are because they have money and they don't mind giving it to guys and standing out there playing a trombone in their boxer shorts because it's something different. That's something that I like about Portland. And that's the reason that I'm here instead of like Denver, where they asked me to, why don't you come with our homeless rights group and speak to the city? Because I don't know what y'all have done over the last few years, but the city is not trying to hear. But here in Portland and the climate and the deal, there are public lands everywhere. There are so many really good, I'm not associated with the Rainbow family. I don't like them. The responsibility that they take is a publicity thing. They're not thinking about their calls correctly, and they have all their different reasons for doing it, and that's great. But I want to be able to present an idea to you guys when I get back from a job that I have in Chicago. I came out here to work, but I'm going to stay on vacation. But I need to work, so I'm going to Chicago, and the money that I make and the truck that I have, I'm willing to donate to a not-for-profit, be on the board if Portland would be interested in thinking or hearing about the thing in the world. So I'm willing to give like everything I have.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Safe travels.
Well, I'm also asking, the question is there any way that I could set up some type of, with the information that I've given you and the fact that I know that I can go in the woods and show 15 people that I know well on the streets, trust and respect, family to me now because they've taken care of me, how to live properly using humanure setups and composting toilets, stuff that you guys could be doing instead of the porta potties down there, where the policeman that asked me to come over here was like, what's going on here? I was like, I know you guys don't know. I wanted to talk to City
We'd
Hall.
be happy to talk to you. So if you could reach out to my staff and give some contact information.
Okay, and it's going to be in about a month or so.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
going to be
fine. You
back.
come
I
back
don't
from
have.
Chicago.
I don't have a whole lot of
No worries.
time in my life to I'm not dying, I don't think, or anything, but I wanted to go ahead and organize the chance to be able to talk to you guys seriously about these ideas where I had more than 3 minutes somehow.
I
and
appreciate it. And I like your two ideas about have fun and get home at the end of the day.
And
Good
the
advice
idea
to
of
live by.
funding to get everything
What was
that
the
people
third?
need to stay out of your city.
Thank you. All right.
When you hear that-
Andrew, you want to come back up? So it's my understanding that at this point, we vote to approve the budget as amended. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I just call the roll?
Could I just ask for one clarification in response to Mary Sipes' testimony? Mayor or Commissioner Fish, could you tell me what is happening about the age-friendly cities funding and Experience PDX, et cetera?
So my understanding, Commissioner Fritz, is that there were two different proposals that were pitched. The mayor has chosen to fund one, which is loosely fits within the family of age-friendly. There is a second ask that has to do with a position at PSU and a set of programs. What I have concluded is that we need to do some additional work to lay the foundation for an ask. The mayor has some questions about the program and its effectiveness. And it seems to me appropriate to have that conversation before we come forward with an ask. And I have reserved the right to come forward with with an ordinance to fund a position. But I would like, I don't think it's cooked yet, and I would like to respect the process and have a stronger foundation for an ask.
Okay, that's fine. I'm very supportive of the program, as you know, so I'm just glad to know it's still in progress.
Very good. Were
So,
there any further
Just one
questions?
comment,
Commissioner Fish?
because, Andrew, we technically have one more vote in June, correct?
That is right. Yeah, today you are approving the budget as the Budget Committee, and you come back as City Council in June to adopt the budget.
So we're approving the budget, then we're going to adopt the budget, and most of you in the audience are already exhausted from this process, which has been going on for months and months and months. By tradition, we, in approving the budget today, each of us takes an opportunity to thank some folks and to make a few comments. There's another opportunity in June, but this is usually where we do that, so just want to make that note.
Okay, very good. Is there any further comment before we get to the roll call? Please call the roll.
So, Mayor and colleagues, I'm very pleased to support this budget. And Mayor, I want to compliment you for what I believe has been an unusually collaborative and collegial process, and you set the tone early. The budget before us addresses many of the issues that I care about personally and includes targeted and strategic funding for our shared priorities. In particular, I want to highlight that it directs a $50 million down payment on Build Portland, a bold initiative that the mayor has proposed to tackle our backlog of street maintenance and repair. Invest significant new funds in Vision Zero, affirming our belief that one death on our streets is too many. Continues our commitment to partnering with the county to fight homelessness in our community, and affirms our plan to streamline the delivery of services to people most in need. And I want to acknowledge the mayor's early work to build a strong partnership with County Chair Deborah Kafori. That relationship is crucial to our success going forward. It continues investments in highly successful programs that support our neighborhood small businesses. It supports the Rose Festival, Portland's official and award-winning festival. It continues to show discipline with ratepayer dollars, focusing on basic services like resilience and water quality. And the budget continues general fund support for improvements at Mount Tabor, work we're doing in partnership with the Mount Tabor Neighborhood Association. We have partially restored funding for the arts, and we have funded the first ever performance audit of the Regional Arts and Culture Council. And the mayor and I will be officially requesting that audit this week. The budget also funds new ranger positions in East Portland to work upstream with the community to solve problems. This is a program near and dear to Commissioner Fritz and my heart. Finally, this budget launches a program I'm very excited about called Project Search, which brings the city together with nonprofits to provide work opportunities for people with intellectual disabilities. The utilities will be piloting this program starting this summer, and I hope it proves successful and that we're able to expand it throughout the city. Mayor, again, I want to thank you for leading what has been, I think, a very productive process. This is your first year as mayor. I would say your first 100 days were eventful. And on top of all the other challenges you faced, you have led us through a budget process, which I think has led us to a budget that I hope earns the support of all your colleagues. And if it does, that will be a milestone. I also want to acknowledge your staff, Mayor, including your Chief of Staff, Maurice, and your Deputy Chief, Kristen, in particular, for the role that they have played in consulting with your colleagues on the second floor. I want to especially thank my council colleagues. We had a 40% turnover of the council this year. We have 2 new members who, in my view, have changed the chemistry of this council in very important ways. And I like where we're headed, and I appreciate their voices and perspectives. I want to thank Andrew Scott and the Budget Office, and as Sonia put in here, and his incomparable team, Sonia's adjective. And we're lucky to have an independent budget office that has the skilled professionals who work there, and we frankly could not do our work without their assistance. I also want to thank my team for their hard work, and led by Sonia Schmansky, my Chief of Staff. That wasn't intended to be a laugh line, but...
We thank my team too.
Okay. I want to thank my and led by my incomparable Chief of Staff, Sonia Schmansky. By the way, this is the first day in council for the newest member of my team, Amira Streeter, who we stole from the Urban League. She is a graduate of Lewis and Clark Law School, and colleagues, she will be helping to lead our work in Superfund. Amira, would you stand just so we can recognize you on your first day here? We are very excited to have her leadership on our team. And lastly, I want to thank everyone who attended a forum, sent an email or a letter, came in for a meeting, and made their voices heard. Thank you to all of you. Your advocacy has led to a better budget for the community we love. Aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Udaly?
My apologies, Commissioner Fish. I am overdue to depart and feeling a little anxious. I would like to thank everyone that Commissioner Fish just thanked, as well as my team. This has been a fascinating and informative process. I feel like I've gotten to know my colleagues better, and I'm really happy with where we arrived with the budget. Aye.
Fritz?
Well, Mayor Wheeler, this is definitely a budget to be proud of for your first year as mayor, and I appreciate both your responsiveness to all of our concerns and the way that you've helped us all work together. And each of my colleagues comes under that category. All of our bureau staff, and particularly our budget advisory committees, do enormous amounts of work over what seems like 6 to 9 months, and we've got a very short break with all those work sessions before we get back to the next year's budget. But it's important because each year we make very specific funding decisions, and our bureau budget advisory committees are essential to that. So I particularly want to thank Mike Abate and the park staff, and Lisa St. Helen and the Emergency Communications User Board. And I'll also add my thanks to the Budget Office, which remains something that I'm very happy we got going. What's funded and what's not funded is also part of this, and I do want to recognise that we did take cuts. There are several things that are not, many things that are not funded that people were hoping would be funded. We heard today about the Lads Addition Gardeners and the Brooklyn Park, and there are others, especially through parks, where things are not funded, and we know we've got more work to do. So I'm looking forward to working on those issues under the guidance of Tim Crail, my Chief of Staff, and in fact all my staff. The Build Portland initiative, it's bold, it's a legacy project, and I'm happy that I'm going to be involved in it for the next 3+ years. I'm very happy with the 250,000 for the open and accountable elections, and the budget note that says, yes, we are going to have it implemented by 2020. So that is very significant to me, and I know to many of our community members who are hoping for more representation at every level. The 4 parks rangers that are funded in East Portland with ongoing money, it's the first time that the council has allocated parks rangers specifically to East Portland. Previously, they've all been on the west side. And so we're starting to address some of the key equity challenges that were evident when I first started and perhaps even more evident now. We're starting the health, safety, and environmental programs in parks, like the school districts dealing with lead and paint, lead water, asbestos. A lot of our infrastructure is failing. And so I'm very happy that we, several years ago, Commissioner Saltzman and Fish and I passed a binding city resolution saying that half of all one-time money has to go to infrastructure maintenance, and that this year has been the benefit of the Transportation Bureau, which is getting 7.2 million that it otherwise would not necessarily have got, because a lot of these maintenance projects are not particularly fun or sexy, and there are still things that even with the parks levy and with the allocations, it's challenging, and I know that I've got work to do if I'm reassigned the Parks Bureau to get the Lansu Chinese garden roof done, to get the leaking basement in Pittock Mansion done. Everybody who came in to talk with us in our budget sessions, whether you got what you wanted or not, your comments were not lost on us, and just because we're accepting this budget and moving it forward doesn't mean that we won't try to continue to work with neighbours on things like the Lads Addition Park. We rely on volunteers in Portland Parks and Recreation, so we need to continue to support them as we need to. 25 million plus for the Joint Office of Homeless Services. That's a lot of money. When people come and say that we're not doing anything, I just keep thinking, well, 25 million is a lot of money, particularly in conjunction with the tripling of the Housing Bureau's budget over the time that I've been on the council. I'm satisfied that we have had a process for the marijuana tax money, and I very much appreciate all of my colleagues' support on that. Looking forward to the participatory budgeting on the remaining $500,000 of it, also to the process for the special appropriation grants. And that's again, so if you did not get what you wanted in this budget today, we have $1 million set aside for special appropriations, which anybody can apply to, and a committee made up of staffers from the 5 offices in City Hall will allocate that money. And so there's a lot of opportunities for partnership with the city. That's what makes our city so great. Just a couple of other things. The Vision Zero money is very significant, and we need to do more. Yes, we need to do more to support both our police officers and people who are impacted by police officer decisions in our community. We will continue to do that. We will continue to work on the settlement agreement with the Department of Justice, whether the Department of Justice decides to want us to or not. That is something that Mayor Wheeler has been committed to, just like Mayor Hales and Mayor Adams were before him. And I will continue to work on it. I'm particularly happy that we got the community services officers pilot in Portland Police Bureau wanting to be involved as you implement that, Mayor Wheeler. So just generally, a lot of work has been done by everybody. Thank you very much. Aye.
Wheeler.
Well, Dan stole my speech, so I'm going to have to go in a different direction.
I'm sure you had enough time.
I believe it's to our credit as a council and a sign that we have clear priorities that this budget was passed with little fanfare and even less controversy. The City of Portland is poised to make significant investments to improve our roads, address homelessness, and foster economic growth. The council approved an initial investment of $50 million in critical infrastructure that will grow to $600 million over 20 years. We approved a $25 million investment in the Joint Office of Homelessness Services to provide rent assistance, shelter, and housing placement. We've increased funding to minimize the impacts of homelessness as they relate to public health, safety, and livability. And we've invested in coordinated efforts to promote workforce development to ensure that Portlanders are prepared for the high-skill, high-wage jobs that will define our economy in the years ahead. I want to thank my colleagues here and your staffs for approaching this budget with an approach defined by a collaborative, problem-solving, and fiscal discipline perspective. Like Chloe, I learned a lot during this budget process, and this is really all of our work, and it's something that I believe we as a council can be very proud of. So I've appreciated this process. I've appreciated the time and the energy that you've all put into it. and I look forward to doing this many times in the years ahead. Thank you all. Aye. The budget is approved as amended. Commissioner Udaly, can we borrow you for 2 more minutes?
Oh,
I know. So we have to also approve the tax levies, so let me just read the formal ORS script. The city shall levy its full permanent rate of 4.5770 per $1,000 of assessed value and $17,590,351 for the payment of voter-approved general obligation and bond principal and interest, and $155,553,793 for the obligations for the Fire and Police Disability and Retirement Fund, and 0.4026 per $1,000 of assessed value for the Children's Levy. Furthermore, the city shall levy the amounts listed in Attachment E for urban renewal collections. I'll entertain a motion to approve the tax levies.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Saltzman.
Second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Udaly. Any further conversation on the levies? Please call the roll. Carla.
Fish.
Mayor, I have a 20-minute statement I'd like to read for the record on this. Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
This is a good reminder. What we're spending is taxpayers' money, and we're trying to do it as wisely as possible. And thank you to those who live in this great city and work in this great city. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The tax levies are approved. This meeting of the City Portland Budget Committee is now adjourned. Thank you to the Budget Office, and I know we still have more work to do.
Mayor, let's take a
but thank you.
3-minute compassion break if we
All right,
could.
3 minutes. Thank you, Commissioner Udaly. Those of you waiting for the Portland Development Commission, now known as Prosper Portland, will be up in 3 minutes. Now convening the Prosper Portland Budget Committee for the purpose of approving the fiscal year 2017-18 budget. The Budget Committee members received copies of the Prosper Portland's initial budget approval change memo on Tuesday, May 9th, and a revised change memo and a resolution on Friday, May 12th. I now request that Pam call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye, or here.
Udaly. Fritz.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. I'm now calling for a motion to consider the changes to the proposed budget as presented in the change memo and Exhibit A.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Fritz moves, Commissioner Saltzman seconds. We will now call up staff for a discussion. And just for clarity, Commissioner Udaly in the last conversation allocated some one-time funds to the Prosper Portland to fund the second cohort of small business owners in the Increase project. And so we need to offer up an amendment. Why don't I do that right now so I don't forget to do that? I'll read the full amendment. Allocate $87,500 of one-time general fund resources to Prosper Portland to fund a second cohort of small business owners in Prosper Portland's Increase project. The funding source for this add will be an $87,500 one-time reduction to the general fund contingency. And she called for amending attachments B, C, and E as necessary. Could I get a second?
Second.
So that motion is on the table. Commissioner Fritz seconds it. Clarification, do we need to vote on that now like we did in the last section?
Yes.
Let's call the roll, please, Pam.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The amendment is adopted. Good afternoon, and thank you for your patience.
Good afternoon. So I'm Kimberly Branham, Executive Director at Prosper Portland, formerly known as Portland Development Commission, and we are here to go over the changes, and Tony Barnes, our Budget Officer, is going to walk through those briefly.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners. I'm Tony Barnes, Budget Officer with Prosper Portland. The change memo that was introduced on May 9th includes 3 amendments to the original proposed budget in addition to the just passed amendment to bring the city budget, the Prosper Portland budget, in sync with the City of Portland General Fund budget. So those 3 changes are an additional $66,000 in one-time funding for Venture Portland that was added, $100,000 in adjustments related to the carryover committed funds from the 16-17 spring bump, as well as this housing set-aside budget adjustment of around about $5 million to sync up the Portland Housing Bureau approved budget with the Prosper Portland approved budget for set-aside funds. Those actions identified in Exhibit A would bring the budget in line with the approved City of Portland budget.
Very good. And Commissioners, are there any additional amendments you'd like to make to the change memo, to add to the change memo?
Well, I was interested in finding out more about Accelerate Oregon and what was done there with respect to the funding, or lack thereof.
Sure, thank you, Commissioner. So Accelerate Oregon is both a fund that supports women who are looking and who are preparing themselves to be invested in, and so they're putting together a fund. And Prosper Portland has secured $30,000 to help them with some of their initial business planning. They put in as part of the Small Business Technical Assistance Program and the Increase project, and we had wanted to invest in them at $100,000, but only had $50,000. So the amendment that Commissioner Udaly put forward will mean that they can be fully funded at the $100,000 level.
Oh, the amendment that we just...
Yes.
The one we adopted.
Oh, okay.
The one that you adopted.
Oh, I didn't realize that had anything to do with Accelerate. Okay, great.
Yeah, yes.
Great. Any further questions? Any further information you care to impart on us?
No.
Is there any public testimony on the PDC budget?
Yes.
Could I ask how many people?
2.
All right. If you guys want to take a seat, we'll bring
thank
up
you.
public testimony. And again, thank you very much for your patience. Please call them up.
Igor Prostenko,
Janae De La Rosa.
They signed up, that's for the next item.
Oh,
This is, anybody want to testify on the Prosper Portland, formerly known as the PDC budget? Very good. That actually catches us up. I'm now calling to entertain a motion to vote to approve the budget.
So moved.
Second.
Amendments in Exhibit A of the Resolution 7233 as amended. Commissioner Fish moves, Commissioner Fritz second. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Fish.
Well, first I want to compliment PDC on the rebranding. I'm proudly displaying my new mug and coaster on my desk. But I think it's appropriate to reimagine, just as PDC has to now reimagine itself and come up with a new funding model. I think it's appropriate to come up with a new name and reintroduce yourself to the community. I'm old enough to remember when this part of our budget process was very contentious, and we had a lot of people coming forward with testimony and concerns. So the fact that we don't have a lot of people here means that the process has worked and people have been able to comment and weigh in at earlier stages, and so I appreciate that. Speaking just for myself, I think it's critical to our future that we have a strong and dynamic Prosper Portland. Now, what it looks like and how it functions and how it's funded is to be determined. But I think we should err on the side of unleashing the entrepreneurial potential for Prosper Portland, which means, I think, having a conversation in the near term about potentially assigning certain responsibilities currently performed by the city to Prosper Portland to go beyond managing certain assets and instead thinking of ways of leveraging and developing certain assets. That's for another day. That conversation and also how we're going to be providing stable funding over time is another day. One last comment. During my 8 or 9 years, we've had this ongoing discussion about whether we should focus on placemaking or whether we should focus on economic development. At the end of the day, I think we should focus on people. This is a great city because of people. And when people have opportunities and are able to live here and prosper, a lot of other good things happen. And so I think it starts with people. And I think the new sharper focus of the agency on creating opportunity for people who have been historically left out, and the idea of creating wealth in communities that lag, and the whole idea of lifting that a rising tide lifts all boats, I think is vitally important. Along the way, we can continue to build a beautiful city. But a beautiful city that people can't afford to live in is called a museum. And what we want is a city where people can live and thrive and also enjoy a livable community, and without regard to their status. So I'm pleased to support this budget, and I look forward to playing a role in helping to reimagine Prosper Portland. Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Well, thank you, Director Branham, and all of your staff. Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Fish that the agency has made a lot of progress, in fact has been the leader on a lot of our equity initiatives and has done very well with that. So I appreciate your focus on women and minorities and emerging small businesses, and hope that will be the focus moving on. I appreciate also that the Mayor had deleted the budget note regarding the future of the Commission and the work being done. That deserves a very full public input and discussion that needs to happen outside of the budget process. And so I appreciate the fact that you allowed that to happen in a more orderly way. And I look forward to participating in those discussions. And thank you again for all the work that you do in our community. Aye.
Wheeler.
I want to extend my thanks to Director Branham and her team, and I'm highly supportive of the work that you're doing, particularly around economic prosperity. And I also think that the rebranding is a strong statement. It's a commitment. It's written in effectively blood, as far as all of us are concerned, that we're going to answer the call you put out there, which is who benefits. And we're going to make sure that communities that are impacted by development are the first to benefit from development. And I know you're committed to that, and I know you have a team in place committed to that. And I think about all of the amazing opportunities that lie ahead for us. And they have the opportunity, they have the potential to be transformational for this city in lots of different ways, not just in terms of the look and feel and character of the community, but also how it lifts the community and who it lifts in the community. So I look forward to being part of that process over a period of many, many years. I will happily vote aye. That means the budget for Prosper Portland is approved as amended. And we are now adjourning the Prosper Portland Budget Committee meeting. Thank you all. Thank you, Pam. And now we are reconvening as the Portland City Council.
We need another roll call.
I don't know. Do we need another roll call as a reconvened body? We probably do.
We should, because
Why don't
we're
you
the
call
city
the roll
council.
just to be on the
Okay.
safe side, just so people don't say we were never here.
Fish,
Aye. We're here, excuse me.
Saltzman,
Here.
Udaly, Fritz,
Still here.
Wheeler.
Here and I. All right, good. The one and last remaining item.
Item 518, Work System Inc., update on workforce development activities presentation.
Very good. So with that, I will call up our friends from Work Systems, Inc., who are going to update us on some of the fantastic work they've done. This is directly related to the work, of course, of Prosper Portland as well. This is a strong partnership, a regional partnership that we're engaged in and heavily involved in. And by agreement previously, I'll turn this over to the Director of Work Systems, and he can tee us off. And if you could all just re-identify yourself for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, Andrew McGough, Director of Work Systems.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Chang with the Portland Housing Bureau.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. So I'll start off. So good afternoon, Mayor and City Commissioners. We're pleased to share the outcomes and personal stories of the Economic Opportunity Program, or EOP, in promoting employment and career advancement opportunities for very low-income households in Portland. The program started in 2004 as part of the city's broader strategic plan for reducing poverty through economic opportunity. EOP has an annual budget of about $2.7 million, which is a combination of both city general funds and federal community development block grants that are administered through the Housing Bureau. Prosper Portland, formerly Portland Development Commission, oversees the program and aligns the workforce resources with their economic growth and neighborhood prosperity initiatives. And Work Systems, which serves as our local workforce investment board, administers the services through dozens of partnerships with community-based employment providers. EOP provides critical support for families and individuals to gain income and increase their earning potential, which enables them to secure and maintain stable housing. Through the work of A Home for Everyone in recent years, we've been able to invest additional resources to increase the program's capacity to particularly focus on serving more people who are experiencing homelessness or at imminent risk of losing their housing. By the end of this current fiscal year, we anticipate serving at least 300 additional households who are homeless or at risk of homeless through some very strategic connected employment, housing, and culturally specific services that have been available through Home for Everyone and the Bureau. So thank you for investing in this important program. It really effectively leverages federal and local resources to promote economic opportunities for households in Portland. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kimberly and Andrew to speak more about how the interagency partnership is effectively working.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm Kimberly Branham, Executive Director at Prosper Portland. Really pleased to be here today to talk about what is a story of effective collaboration and alignment and impact. And you're going to hear some stories later today about what that means on the ground, but from an institution to institution level, I think we're really pleased to have such deep collaboration and connections between the Portland Housing Bureau, Prosper Portland, and Work Systems. So, as you know, Prosper Portland is focused on increasing access to quality employment, as well as advancing opportunities for prosperity, collaborating with partners for an equitable city, and creating vibrant neighborhoods. We rely on many partnerships to increase access to quality jobs, and workforce development is truly a critical component of ensuring individuals have the access and skills they need to find meaningful employment. Prosper Portland's workforce investments aim to connect people of color and low-income residents to high-quality job opportunities and career tracks. We do this by working closely with our neighborhood and community and higher education partners, as well as our target industry employers, and of course with Work Systems. Together, we're finding ways to most effectively connect people to job opportunities. So together, we're collaborating with our nonprofit partners to ensure equitable opportunities and access. For example, Southeast Works provides employment and referral services directly to job seekers at the Rosewood Community Center, which is a neighborhood prosperity initiative district. Together, we're influencing business behavior to align with our inclusive economic growth priorities. Through the Techtown Diversity Pledge, Prosper Portland convenes 22 companies to participate in collective actions such as equity trainings, data tracking, and peer-to-peer learning opportunities. These companies employ more than 2,000 employees who will benefit from actions to facilitate an inclusive company culture. Together, we're aligning services supported by our funding with career pathways towards living wage jobs. In the last 5 years, Prosper Portland has invested just over $500,000 in workforce training at enterprise zone participating companies, allowing more than 300 employees access to career growth and development opportunities. Together, we're connecting our physical investments with workforce investments by applying our equitable contracting policies and through initiatives like the Division Transit Project, where partners are committed to providing residents in the corridor with increased employment. And finally, we're strengthening our partnerships with Work Systems and providers to change how we collectively engage with diverse and historically underrepresented communities, where we're pivoting from an exclusive focus on anti-poverty to a broader focus on prosperity and going from just surviving to really thriving. And so that's the story that we hope you'll hear today.
Good afternoon. I'm Andrew McGough. I'm the Director of Work Systems and a proud partner in the Economic Opportunity Initiative. As Jennifer mentioned, this program has been around for quite a while, 2004 to be exact, and it's been evolving ever since. And I think really the important thing to take away from this, I think I've talked to you all a number of times before, is these are challenging times for large segments of our community, and the only way that we can solve those is by working together. And I think that this program really does demonstrate the institutional collaboration as well as the community collaboration that we need to really move people from poverty to prosperity. Have I said something funny?
No, Mr. Smoker, we're both distracted by the image here. What are we looking at there?
I think you're looking at people covered in clay. And my hope is that someone can be more explicit than that.
Well, that's a start. Thank
but I'm
you.
guessing this looks like that growler place. But it's amazing. It's it's out on Sandy, and it's a bunch of slackers created this growler place. And anyway, it may not be, but the bottom line is, I love what you said earlier, Commissioner Fish, and I think that I get the sense that the whole council realizes this is really about people. And ultimately, we think we will thrive if our people thrive. That economic development will come if we have the people that can help that kind of growth. And that's what this program is really about. And so without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Patrick Gearing, who is our Chief Program Officer. And he'll walk us through this presentation and tell you what these guys are covered in.
Great. Yeah, excellent. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having us. I'm Patrick Gearing, Chief Program Officer at Work Systems, and I'm going to do a brief overview of the funding and the program. I think we lost the PowerPoint, but it's okay. Oh, we're good. So funding for the workforce development of the program, as Jennifer said, is about $2.7 million annually and serves about 1,100 Portlanders every year. The population served are low-income Portland residents. The eligibility requirement is that they're below 50% of median family income. Almost all of them, though, are below 30% of median family income. There's a programmatic focus on homeless, people at imminent risk of eviction, residents of public housing, ex-offenders, immigrants, and communities of color. City funding for this program supports career coaching provided by a network of 11 community-based partners, some of whom you'll hear from this afternoon. And the program design ties the strength of our community-based partners to the strengths and services and resources within the public workforce system, which Work Systems oversees. On top of this investment made by the city, Work Systems adds over $6 million in federal, state, and local services annually to serve more people and to enhance the services of this program. This includes about $2.5 million annually to increase the number of career coaches and the number of community-based organizations partnering within this program, $1.8 million for occupational training to support entry into high-growth career track occupations that are aligned with target sectors of Prosper Portland and Work Systems, $1.1 million in on-the-job trainings, paid internships, and other work-based learning opportunities, and a little over $500,000 in rent assistance, being a program that serves very low-income people. People are sometimes impacted by homelessness during the course of services, and they're able to complete their training and move into employment more effectively while housed. If you bring together the city funds as well as the additional resources brought to the table, the total program is about $8.7 million and serves about 1,500 Portlanders annually. So I want to thank you for the investment. We want to thank you for the investment made by the city in the Economic Opportunity Program. It makes it possible for us to secure these additional federal matching grants, federal competitive grants, state, local, and other resources for people of Portland.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm Stacy Triplett, Community Programs Manager for Work Systems. I'd like to talk about the population served, the partners, and the results that the EOP program is getting. The EOP community-based providers use their knowledge and expertise to serve specific populations with one-on-one individualized career coaching and occupational training in the community. Of course, much of the training is provided through a strong connection to WorkSource Portland Metro resources, which include training scholarships, paid work experiences, and placement support for career track jobs. The populations that we're referring to are homeless and housing insecure residents, 26% of our program in the past year. Residents of subsidized housing, folks returning from incarceration, 30% of our participants self-report involvement with the community justice system, criminal justice system. Immigrants and English language learners, 36% of our population is long-term unemployed. They've been looking for work for 27 weeks or more. That's a Bureau of Labor Statistics definition. 50% hold a high school diploma, GED or less. 16% have completed some post-secondary education without a degree. So those are the populations, and a little bit more on the demographics. As you're familiar, communities of color are overrepresented in low-income populations. That's 54% of our participants. 22% identify as Latino, Latina, 22% African American. So that's a little bit more on who is served. In keeping with the priorities that we share that are set by Portland Housing Bureau, Prosper Portland, and Work Systems, all the participants are low income. They're defined as earning 50% of MFI or below. So for a family of four, that would be $36,750, more or less. I want to also talk about our partners. So that's who's served. Who's serving them are this list of partners you could see here. The contracted providers are Central City Concern, who was here today but had to leave, so I will introduce their testimony in written format.
Thank you.
Human Solutions, ERCO, you've heard Southeast Works already, Oregon Tradeswomen is a partner here, Constructing Hope, and Self-Enhancement, Inc. Self-Enhancement does bring culturally specific services to the program. In addition, there's a network of youth-serving organizations that work with young adults. They're eligible to work starting at age 16. You'll hear more about that from our partner here. The youth network is being redesigned to laser focus on youth or young adults who are not working and not in school, and to connect them to those in-demand occupations with employers in the targeted sectors that you've heard about: health careers, advanced manufacturing, construction, and IT software. POIC, you'll hear from today, is one of those youth providers in the network, as well as New Avenues for Youth, Portland Youth Builders, and Native American Youth and Family Center. So those are the partners in the EOP program. That partnership, that network, served over 400 low-income people. Almost 150 of those completed training for credentials that were recognized in their fields. 76% of those left employed at wages averaging over $13.50 an hour. And I want to kind of note here, averages don't always tell the full story, so $13.50 is one thing. But when you think about our population served, so the average wage is $13.50, or actually $13.78 for the last 12 months, something like that. But let's think about how it varies. For the 400 formerly chronically homeless folks that were served by Central City Concern, their average is $11.30, which is a real accomplishment for that population to connect with work and to get onto the path. For the 60 immigrants in the professional immigrant credentialing program, that average wage was $16.84. So really digging into the details of which populations have which results is part of what this program does. Oh, good. All right. So now I need to focus on some of the additional people that are served. So the city population, or the city investment, through successful applications for competitive funding, has been able to grow to serve another 825 people within the city of Portland. So they were receiving the same one-on-one career coaching done in community-based organizations, but not funded by the first investment that the city made. The $6 million figure you heard about before is the result of Work Systems expansion efforts and the strength of the local network of providers. Federal Department of Labor grants, Health and Human Services Administration grant, and a USDA matching grant all increase the service that Prosper Portland invests in to more than double the impact. Multnomah County Department of Community Justice, Reentry Connector, where our participants are getting directly referred from parole officers, and as you've heard before, the joint office, the city funds in the joint office, from A Home for Everyone funds an extension of the EOP as well. That extension helps us to focus on homeless and housing insecure populations, and also it added the Urban League and El Programa Hispano Católico to the existing strong network of providers, which increased the culturally specific approaches to work with those communities of color who were in this program and seeking services and support. So I'd like to say the person. Our testimony that we're introducing in writing would have been presented by Frida Caesar, who is the director of the Employment Access Center at Central City Concern, but instead now we'll hear from Joe McFerrin. Is that good? I got it. For VOIC.
Very good.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I just want to state again, thank you for your patience. Obviously, our budget hearing ran long, and so I know that's made your plan presentation more complicated, and I appreciate very much your flexibility. And Joe's great. We like him, so he'll do a fantastic job.
Thank you so much, Mayor and City Commissioner, City Council. I'll keep it short. But I will say it's nice.
Joe, I'm sorry for the record. You have to read your name in.
Joe
Sorry.
McFerrin II, President and CEO of POIC and the Rosemary Anderson High School. So we'll just to start off, and I'll keep my comments real brief. It's nice to, on a daily basis, we deal with some of Portland's most at-risk youth and their families. And there isn't a day that goes by that we don't deal with some sort of difficult and sometimes even tragic situation. But it's nice and refreshing to come to a meeting like this where people in positions of leadership that Impact Systems are doing really good work together to make a difference in the lives of the people that we serve. So I just wanted to say that. For us, we have been a provider with Economic Opportunity Program and Work Systems for some time. And on the youth side for the most part, and I think you guys are pretty much aware of our work on the youth side. But what I'm really excited about, we have had an opportunity through this process to address homelessness with some of our young adults and some of our families as a result of this work. And it's been huge. We've been struggling with this for a very long time. But now, not only do we have a small amount of funding to dedicate to this work, we're also now a part of the network. And I think that in a very short period of time has really built up some capabilities within our organization. And we look forward to working with this particular project around homelessness moving forward, because there are so many of our students and families that are dealing with this issue. In our program, we serve about 2,000 participants a year. 48% are African American, 26% are Latino, and 23% are low-income white folks that we work with. So we're a pretty diverse organization. The keys to our success for us are in our core beliefs, and one of my staff person left, and it was on her shirt, but we believe that no matter what, all people have value. We believe that all people can grow, and we believe that no matter what problems they're facing, they can contribute to a thriving community. So that's kind of stems from our work. And then lastly, about our strategy, I would say it's based in trust and relationships. That's how we are able to get our young people and families moving in the right direction. And I'll tie it up there. I mean, the last thing I would say, I think this work, our core focus is to get young kids, high school age kids who have disengaged in the educational system, get them back and inspired through education, because we know that's the key. And one of the things that we do that has proven to be most effective is offering a young person an opportunity to work. And we believe that an opportunity to work and a work experience is one of the best social service strategies that we have. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Thanks to all of you. Hello. Hello. And again, if you could just state your name for the record, that'd be great. Don't know who wants to go first.
I've never done this before. Okay, I guess I'll go first. We're all a little nervous. So I just thank you guys for your time. I know it's been a very long day, and I think it's very important for you guys to understand what all these numbers and all these programs really mean. And for myself, and I know I was down here, I believe back in September, to speak to you on behalf of the CBA and what that program has meant to me. So if you remember some of that, then some of this will be repeated for you about my history. But to understand what I'm going to say, you have to understand where I came from. I was a youth. I started running away at the age of 11. I come from an abusive background, primarily my mother. I'm a firstborn generation here in the United States. My father is from La Piedad, Michoacan. So you can understand that just growing up in a very diverse home was a struggle to begin with. I have other siblings. I moved all over Washington State and Oregon for probably the course of 9.5 years. Within that time, I ended up here in Portland with a family member at the age of 14. Within 6 months, because of all the abuse and trauma, and there was no services at that time to reach out to kids that were victims of child abuse and those kinds of traumas. So I was left to the streets, so to speak. Within 6 months of being here in Portland with a cousin, I was forced into the lifestyle of prostitution, which is a huge thing that's going on. I know that the city of Portland is doing a lot on behalf of child trafficking. But from that, I ended up as a 17-year-old mother. And then by the time my daughter was 2 years old, that lifestyle really had its grip on me. And during a transaction on the street, it ended in somebody losing their life and me going away to prison for 16 and a half years at the age of 19. You can imagine the devastation. You can imagine a 19-year-old kid, what I barely had my GED. I didn't think I was very smart. I had no self-esteem, no self-worth. And when I went to prison, I thought my life was over. The custody of my child went to the state of Oregon, where she ended up going through 27 foster homes. So while I was incarcerated, I decided that I was going to do whatever it took for when I got out to have a life. I knew I was going to be 35 years old, but I knew that I wanted a life, and I knew that life wasn't going to come easy. I knew that schooling was probably going to be hard. It was going to come at a cost that I had no idea how I was going to be able to ever pay it back entering that field at the age of 35. So some programs come into the facility. I'm also part Cherokee Indian, so I started attending Native services where our volunteer Trisha Jordan through Red Lodge brought in the Oregon tradeswomen, which you guys have heard of. And what's really awesome is they have a great career fair coming up this weekend, which is pretty cool. And when she brought them in, I suddenly realized, wait a minute, there's a program out there and they're looking at me and they say that I can do it. Well, beyond that, what else is it going to take? I had no idea how to live a normal, healthy life. And when you do 16 and a half years within the prison walls, they have programs set up to bring you on what they call a field trip into the community for a day to start maybe seeing where you're going to be housed or what kind of programs or services might be there for you. I had no idea of any services. Southeast Workforce Center, which is also another program that is very vital to the community of Portland, I visited them on this day trip, and I honestly thought that all they were was a temporary connecting just for temporary day jobs. That's what I thought they were. Well, that changed very quickly when I went in there and I met with Cindy Pollard, who was just very genuinely compassionate and just really wanting to figure out what it was going to take to help me move forward. And she knew I had talked to her about the Oregon tradeswomen, and she said, okay, that's one step, but how are we going to get there before that? What are the steps that are going to take? And you talk about wraparound services, and there's a saying where it says that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it also takes a village to raise a person that comes from destruction and comes from a place of incarceration for such a long period of time, who really wants to strive and really wants a better life. And when I started meeting with Cindy once I paroled, I was housed downtown at the Estates, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's right in the heart of homelessness. A lot of drug use, a lot of prostitution, a lot of pimps are down there. I mean, it's just like a really horrible atmosphere. And so that was a huge stress when you're getting out of prison after such a long time. And how are you going to find stable work? And how are you going to be able to do that with a clear mind when your housing is so, it's a chaos. It's a destruction. Well, through Southeast Workforce Center and through the Oregon tradeswomen, they also connected me with Human Solutions, who was also up on the board, who they helped me get into housing and get my first apartment ever at the age of 35, which is really crazy, but very cool. But these programs and what Cindy does and the connections that she makes, like, I remember one day I went down there and I had no money. I was waiting to get a call back from a flagging company, and I thought there was no hope, there was nothing, and I broke down in her office. I didn't even have an appointment. I just showed up because I was so stressed out. And she said, let's make a phone call. Let's make a phone call. And sure enough, this company had forgotten to call me back. And I started working right away within a few days. And that company, and with the help of Cindy, they navigated and helped me be able to work and make wages to where I could complete the Oregon Tradeswomen program, which is 8 weeks long. And then from there, the Oregon Tradeswomen helped me get in. They have direct entry into apprenticeship programs if you complete their program. And I got a direct entry into Northwest Local 29 ironworkers. So I'm a very proud to sit here and say that I'm a female ironworker, and I'm out there doing what guys say that we can't do. And beyond that, I'm sitting here before you with housing, with a vehicle, with a job, with support services and people that I can go back to at any time, coming from a place of incarceration, but merely, I think it's about 8.5 months ago, I was released. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the funding that goes into these programs. It's not just only one program or only one other program. These people are like the umbrella and has all these like antennas out there that reach out and figure out what it is going to take to help somebody like myself succeed and become a contributing member of society. Like when I filed my taxes, I was so excited that I didn't get any money back because I was paying my taxes. I mean, that's a good feeling for somebody like myself. So I just thank you for your time, and I just really hope that what I've said to you here today, that you really, reflect on it and really understand the importance of that money going into a program like this. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you. That really does remind us why we work so hard and why this is such an important program to fund. Could you tell me your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Crystal Magana.
Crystal, I think you should be very proud, and I'm very happy that this program has helped you. Look forward to future updates as well as you continue in your career.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Okay, I want to start off with that I'm happy to be here. So my name is Anna Felix, and I'm 25 years old. I was born in Guatemala and raised in Portland, Oregon. So I came to the U.S. when I was 1 year old. My parents lost many family in the Civil War, which was in 1992. And so that's why they came here to the United States to escape and came to the U.S. for safety. So I have never been back to Guatemala, so I don't know how it looks, and I've never been there before. And I would someday love to go back and visit and be there. But I am happy that I was raised here in Portland. Portland is my home. I would never want to leave Portland. So I graduated from PUIC, Rosemary Anderson High School, in 2013. So PUIC is different from my former high schools because the teachers, the career coaches, even the principal made sure that every student was doing well in classes and attending class every day. And I remember when one of my career coaches, he came to my house and was yelling from outside, telling me to get to school. And that showed me that how much they care about my education and my future. And I am grateful for that as well. So in 2011, I was a new mom to a little boy. And PUIC helped me with parenting skills and the importance of how to care for kids. They were also able to provide clothing, toys, and books for the child. And also, this past fall, PUIC helped me get involved in a healthcare bridge program and supported me with an internship at Providence. I'm currently still attending PCC right now at Cascade. So thanks to PUIC career coaches for helping me get back into school and supporting me and helping me with homework and standing by my side. So, and I am going to school for surgical technician. And the reason I want to be a surgical technician because I was inspired by a surgical tech.
What kind of technician?
Surgical tech.
Oh, surgical.
Surgical tech, yes. And I was inspired by a surgical technician that I met during my internship at Providence. And she was the sweetest person ever. And so yeah, she gave me advice on the career. She helped me, and she loves it, and it's the perfect fit for her, so which inspired me greatly. So I looked into the surgical technician to see if I like it, and I did. And this is what I want to do, and I know I want it. And I want to end it with, without PUIC, I want to be here today giving a speech, because they helped me so much with everything, with scholarships, making sure I'm doing good, keeping in touch with me. And Yeah, they've been there for me. They've been helping me. And no matter who you are, why you are, they want to help you. It doesn't matter where you come from.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We sure appreciate your being here today. Thank you for your testimony. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Janae De La Rosa, and I'm actively involved in the Human Solutions and WorkSource program.
I'm sorry, could you move the mic just a little closer? Thank you. That's perfect.
I'm actively involved with Human Solutions and WorkSource, the Pathways to Success program. I was at a very unstable place in my life. I had very unstable housing, and I had a very poor paying job and did not know where I was going to go, or I thought I was going to end up homeless. That's really where I was, on the verge of that. And I got involved with the program, and they provided for me training as a CNA to start. I've completed all of my training through them. They've also helped me get into my own apartment. I've already I started in October, and I've already got a better paying job. And I take my boards this week, actually. I'm very excited. I have a lot of support through them, and my life has changed dramatically. Becoming self-sufficient and looking to become an LPN. I'll start tutoring with that. They provide the academic navigator for my placement out at Mount Hood. And I just can't really say enough. I mean, I really was, without their programs and without their funding and without their help, I would have been another statistic, but they really have inspired me and given me the motivation that I know I'll succeed, and within 24 months I'll be a very happy nurse working in hospice, and I know I'll do it. And so I just wanted to come and let you know that their programs are working, and to keep funding them.
Thank you, and congratulations to you.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Thank you.
That's great, all three of you. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Please.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Muhammad Muhibullah. I work at now Belkada Packaging Company. My position is forklift operator. So I came like last year from Burma, to Portland. So last year when I arrived here, I'm looking for job and training. I have 10 years forklift experience. So ELCO helped me to find good job. Now I have better job that pay well. I use my skill and in my work, and I feel good about my children's future. So Lizette and Surya give me information of different job and also help with interview skill and saving money, workloads, and time management. So they help me with resume interview training, career coaching, job application, and also with driver license. So they help me with time management, what it is, and also saving money for future. So they also help a lot of time with my, sometimes I have problems, so they help also my personal trouble. So I want city to keep helping EOP program so that people like me who are new to America can give good job and support. It also helps us to be financially stable. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your being here.
Good afternoon. My name is Igor Protsenko.
Welcome.
Excuse me for my English. I live in Portland in the United States 11 months.
Welcome.
I have big family. I have 8 children and 8 grandchildren. Yeah. We came to the United States 11 months ago from Ukraine as refugees. I did not have any English skills. I started looking for a job, but could not find anything. I have many years of experience in construction. Impact Northwest recommended Pathways to Success program at Human Solutions. Right after I was enrolled in November of 2016, I received help with my resume writing and interview skills. I was referred to paid work experience program with the goal to work as a maintenance. We specialists from Human Solutions was in contact with my supervisor to ensure I stay with the employer after my paid work experience is over. I was also referred to EOP rental assistance program and received some help with my rent. I was hired as a full-time payment maintenance in March of 2017. I'm very happy what I'm doing. I make decent money and can feed my big family. Please always fund program like this. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I have to say that your English is very good after 11 months.
Good afternoon. My name is Fatmata. I'm from Africa, West Africa, Sierra Leone to be precise. When we came to America, we were living in Philadelphia. But we moved to Portland with my husband almost 2 years. But we were finding difficult for looking for job, finding ways and means for go to school with all our age. Because like back in Africa, you have your family, you no more going to school. But this is the country that they give opportunity to every life, no matter your age, either your color. So when we came to Portland, we met with ARCO, the organization, and they really helped us a lot with my husband. They fund my husband to go to school to do his CNA, and they fund me to do my CNA too. And they are going out looking for other ways and means to help us in our English learning and even our computer skills. So we really appreciate this program, and we are pleading for you to continue supporting us, supporting other people who are in need of help. And right now, our children, we just brought our children, and they opened their doors, their hands to help them too. So we really appreciate whatever they are doing for us and the support you guys are giving to them. So I want to thank you for everything.
Thank you so much for being
Yeah,
here. We
you're
appreciate your testimony.
Yeah.
Very good. And Andrew, I just want to do a time check. How many more people do we have presenting?
You may be on the...
That's it?
We're done.
All right. What do you want to do? A quick wrap up here?
Sure. And appreciate all of the people that came out today. I think they provided what else can you say?
One moment. I want to thank you all for your testimony today. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just the stories are extraordinary, and I think the success is evident. And it's complicated to put this stuff together, but it's worth it in the end. And I think we've really laid the groundwork that you all can be proud of, and we're really eager to continue to build on this, and happy to support whatever other initiatives you'd like to see us engage in. So thank you very much for your time today.
Commissioner Fritz?
I'm just so happy with this presentation and how your organization and the city is partnering with so many other community organizations. I remember in one of the early years of Mayor Sam Adams's tenure, you and I were on a frantic phone call late at night and wondering if Commissioner Loretta Smith was going to be able to help. And it felt like we were cobbling together things during the recession, and yet now we've got this wonderful program with so many partners. And, it does my heart good to know what you're doing, and that this is such a firm foundation that you've developed the partnerships with so many others. And not only Mayor Adams, but also Mayor Hales and Patrick Quinton before Kimberly Branham, and now Mayor Wheeler. We all know what we're doing. We know why we're doing it. I just wish more people had been here this afternoon, because that's what I came to America for, was to have those opportunities. And I really appreciate you doing this presentation.
If I could just, Mayor, just two quick comments. Sure. And I know it's been a very, very long day, and I want to thank everyone for their patience. These economic opportunity programs used to be in the Housing Bureau. And when we took the housing money out of PDC and created a new Portland Housing Bureau, it was at that time that then Mayor Adams made the decision to put the programs in PDC and try to harness the power of the economic development side of the ledger. And I had the same misgivings about doing that I later had when we proposed taking some of the homeless services out of the Housing Bureau and migrating them to the county. And it wasn't because I was reluctant to consider ways of better aligning or streamlining or delivering services. It's that I thought the values proposition of these two things were crucial to the Housing Bureau's sort of mission. And I didn't want to lose the sort of soul. And it turns out I think both decisions were the right ones. What the Economic Opportunities Initiative needed was a clear strategic focus, so it wasn't just opportunistic, and it needed to be aligned with other programs, and we need to be more rigorous about outcomes. And that's what you've demonstrated. And I would just end on a political note, since today we learned that the Justice Department has appointed a special prosecutor to investigate the president. I would say that the cloud on the horizon is how we fund these programs. And we are somewhat out of step with other cities, because community development block grants, as we know, are very flexible dollars, can be used for lots of kinds of things. They can be used for economic development, they can be used for community building, they can be used for many things, which is why they are prized dollars. The president's proposed budget cuts the heart out of the CDBG program. And so the next time someone says to you, what does community development block grant mean to our community? Tell them about this hearing. Tell them about creating opportunity for people. Tell them about building structures and clinics and investing in things, because that's what it means. So it would not be my first choice of where we cut at the federal level. So thank you for an outstanding presentation.
Great. I'll add my chorus to this. Thank you again for your patience. I know we made you wait about an hour longer than you had expected, but you got to see that scintillating budget hearing. It's awesome. So at any rate, thank you. This is an exciting set of programs, and again, the partnership is the key point for me. So again, let's keep it going. Let's keep building it. Let's keep innovating and thinking of ways that we can strengthen it even more for the future. Thank you. If there is nothing more for the good of the order, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was